Not now, not now. I think it is like a bit. Oh, yeah, approximately. Maybe yeah. Yeah, yeah. Consent or action. I think it's action. Oh.
Hello. Sorry, I can't hear y'all on this end.
Sorry.
Okay. Are we live? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I call this meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. Can we pass around the attendance sheet? Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Amendments to the agenda. Javier?
If my laptop wants to load, could we strike the special presentation on web accessibility and grows allocations?
Sheridan?
Wait, oh yeah, can we strike SFS allocations?
Nico?
Can we strike USA/BOD allocations?
Alicia?
Can we strike ARC allocations, and can I add a conversation line item in new business for art gallery, Kirkhoff Art Gallery, changes in policy?
Kiara?
Could we please strike SWC programming fund allocations from the agenda, please?
Addicts,
Hi, can I strike TJF allocations from the agenda, please?
Bethany,
Hi, may we please strike capital contingency allocations, please?
any other amendments to the agenda? Perfect. Can we get a motion, please? Oh, Josh.
Can I please add a few appointments to the agenda? Zarev Khan for Community Service Mini Fund, Russell Moe for Finance Committee Vice Chair, Virenj Pandari, Suhan Town, Sharon Dunker for Finance Committee Member, Catherine Can for Academic Senate Committee on Undergraduate Admissions and Relations with Schools, and Mehra Marzbani for Data Governance Committee.
I would also like to add an action item under new business for the USAC office move outs. We're transferring money from discretionary, whatever you want to call it. Any other amendments to the agenda? Oh, it's an action item.
Yeah, I motion to add Zarev Khan as an appointment for the Community Service Mini Fund, Russell Moe as an appointment for the Finance Committee Vice Chair, Virenj Pandari, Suhan Tan, and Sharon Dunker for Finance Committee Member, and Catherine Can for Academic Senate Committee on Undergraduate Admission and Relations with Schools.
Second.
Josh motions, have your seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 13-0 vote, that motion passes. Josh.
And then can I also add a special presentation on student government counting updates and then also a bylaw change?
Jonathan, can I motion to add something to agenda? Okay, I motion to add a $6,000 transfer from council discretionary to OSAC for office move outs. Could I get a second, please? Adam motions, Tamim seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 12-0 vote, that motion passes. Do we have any other amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, could we please get a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve the October 8th USAC agenda.
I'll second.
Have your motions. Robbie seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 12-0 vote, that motion passes and the agenda is approved. Do we have any minutes to approve? Thank you. Kiara?
I motion to approve the October 1st USAC minutes.
I second.
Kiara motions, Carolyn seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 13-0 vote, that motion passes. And we are now going to move on to public comment. Just a reminder that for everyone that's here for public comment, we have a total of 30 minutes allocated, and each public commenter gets 2 minutes to speak once. And some of our community guidelines challenge ideas, not individuals, use gender inclusive and respectful language, and no dehumanizing language. With that being said, do we have anyone in person or online that's here for public comment? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Natalie. I am the CalPIRG chapter chair here at UCLA. For those who don't know, CalPIRG is a statewide student-run and student-funded organization at most of the UCs. We work to fight climate change, address students' basic needs, and promote civic engagement. We are funded by 25,000 students across California who pledged to add a $10 activities fee to their tuition, which gives us political power, staff training, and resources to be effective and have all of the students who represent us across the state. But as an update, this past school year, you might have seen us in a class or heard about our campaign, but our priority campaign was to help pass SB 1053, which would fully ban plastic bags in grocery stores in California. We gathered thousands of petition signatures, passed student government resolutions. We lobbied elected officials in Sacramento. We also signed up close to 8,000 student members on this campaign all across the state. So those are all one-on-one interactions with those 8,000 people. And we actually won. The bill was signed by the governor, I think 2 weeks ago, which is a really great step towards a plastic-free future and a great way California can actually just lead the way. Our student board of directors has now chosen to prioritize saving our oldest trees. Forests are places for us to connect with nature, hubs of biodiversity, and allies in the fight against climate change. But there is no rule to protect our oldest trees from being logged in national forests. So that is why we are calling on the Biden administration to enact a strong rule to protect our oldest trees. We'll do this by gathering thousands of petition signatures across the state, holding big events like a forest festival, and getting key VIPs like our local representatives to sign on and support. We would love to work with you all on this issue and just gather any support from you. So if you're interested, please let us know. 2 of my interns will be here after the meeting if anyone wants to talk to them about how we can collaborate. But in addition to that, we'll be working on different campaigns to turn out the vote with our new voters project. We'll address hunger and homelessness on campus, and we would love to partner closely with you all this year. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anyone else here in person here for public comment? Do we have anyone online that's here for public comment? Seeing no one, I will close public comment at 7:14 p.m. and we will move on to funding. Just a reminder to many of you or follow up for a lot of people, since this is our first almost full round of funding allocations. For each line item, the funding officer will tell the council how much money was funded this past cycle to how many USAC and non-USAC entities. And if you're interested in seeing the specific funding, what each specific funding body funded this past cycle, you can open the funding sheet. We're going to be really strict on the funding sheet this year. So I ask that everyone that has funding bodies to make sure that the funding sheet is updated. Otherwise, we won't approve the funding for that cycle. With that being said, we have contingency programming with Bethany.
Hi, I'll be presenting both last week's and this week's. As last week, we weren't able to approve anything due to not having a head chair. But last week we had a total contingency programming request of $37,617, and we recommended an allocation of $15,087 for 39 non-USAC entities. And I'll go ahead and paste that into the chat as well, just so that we have that there. And then this week we had a total contingency programming request of $13,462, and we recommend an allocation of $4,492 for 29 non-USAC entities. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can we get a motion to approve contingency for this week? The amounts should be in the chat. Bethany, could you paste them in the chat? Thank you. Could we get a motion? Tamim?
A motion to allocate 15, is that 15,000 or 50? $15,087 for 39 USAC entity.
I second that motion.
39 non-USAC.
Oh, 39 USAC entities, sorry.
Repeat it.
Non-USAC, sorry. Yeah, okay, I can re-motion it again. I would like to motion the approval of $15,087 for 39 non-USAC entities.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Tamim motions, Robbie seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 13-0 vote, that motion passes. Can we get another motion for this week, please? Alex,
Hi, okay. I motion to approve an allocation of $4,492.00 to 29 non-USAC entities.
any seconds?
I second.
Alex motions, Diego seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 13-0 vote, that motion passes. We are now going to move on to bag with Javier.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to announce the allocations for our first round of bag funding for the fall. This cycle we had a total requested amount of around $14,140.55. And we were able to recommend allocations of $6,969.06 to 10 non-USAC entities. $6,969.06.
Perfect. Seeing as this is a consent item, is there any opposition to this allocation? Perfect. We're gonna move on to ASRF allocations with Chris Espino.
Good morning, y'all. Sorry, it's a little bit like I think delayed on my side, or I'm not sure, but ASRF, we're not doing that, just travel grant mini fund. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, Chris, you can just go ahead with travel grad mini fund.
Okay, perfect. 1 second. I have it up here. So it's how we do it. Sorry, that's my first time. So the total amount, and then we say whether or not they're USAC entities.
So like $5,000 to 2 USAC entities and 3 non-USAC entities would be an example.
Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it would be $3,065 to 8 non-USAC entities.
Perfect. Seeing as this is a consent item, is there any opposition to this allocation? Seeing none, we are now done with funding and we're going to move on to special presentations. Jessica has a presentation on student government account updates.
Are you able to share the slides, Josh, that I emailed? Oh, they didn't come through? Oh, no. Okay. Let me see, because I'm not in the Zoom. Let me see. You're not on. Oh no. I just re-forwarded it from my phone, so hopefully it went through that way. But yeah, just to give some context. So I know there were a lot of questions last week about the various updates that we've been going over in SGA. So I kind of wanted to help frame that conversation, still want to have it and still want to present some of our policy updates to you all, but just figured it was better to take a step back and kind of frame like where this is all coming from. And especially with the rec form revisions, which is more of the process and procedural and not necessarily a policy. So KPMG, who is our auditor that we use to audit annually for USA, GSA, student media, and student-run enterprises for ASUCLA, we contracted with them to do an assessment on student government accounting specifically. So this is separate from our annual audit. And part of this assessment was them reviewing our process and procedures for everything we do in SGA and giving us recommendations based on their assessment and helping us identify areas for improvement and strategies to basically streamline a lot of things and make processing more efficient and smoother for everybody involved. So this is kind of some progress updates on where we're at with some of these things. So our timeline for the year, and then some of our long-term goals. And then there's also some key accomplishments and outcomes we've already done over the last year. And then just some photos of the SGA office space update for those who haven't had a chance to stop by yet. So you can go to the next slide. So let me actually get closer because I can't really read from that far. Thank you. Thanks, Josh. So in winter, so the green check marks are basically everything we've done to date. The yellow check marks are in progress. And then the blue clock is sort of like things that we've postponed to another quarter just due to everything we have going on and timeline and wanting to, implement things properly. So we documented all of our SGA policies and procedures, which is the updated document I'll be sending that's forthcoming. And these are things that we've already been doing in practice, but we didn't have them actually documented anywhere to refer back to. So a lot of this is defining how we monitor things for accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll. We hired our assistant manager, which was a vacancy that we had. So that's Beverly, if you haven't had a chance to meet her yet. We revised our rec and check log, or we will be revising the rec and check log so that it's easier for students to find where they're at in the process. MIP training. So we've been investing in training on our accounting system that we use. We will also be implementing quarterly soft closes. So this means year to date, we'll have a better idea of where we're at each quarter. So that we hope to do this quarter for our first time doing that. Spring of last year, we revised our budget docs. So you've already seen the budget doc that was presented. That was completely redesigned from the ground up. We also created a summary of fee collection and disbursement, which is basically where all the different fee income is coming and then how we recognize that in our accounting system. The payroll training and revision of the onboarding docs, that is forthcoming. That will be transitioning to Beverly once she's finally onboarded completely into her role. We've also been in progress of developing basically standard operating procedures, or what we call desk manuals, for every SGA position and function, just to make sure that if there is any future turnover, that there's procedural docs that can help the incoming staff be able to pick up and ensure more seamless transition. And then for summer, we had planned to do more robust MIP training, but that has been postponed. And once we have our senior manager hired, we'll be getting more training for the whole team, because it is a common accounting tool, but what we have found is that most accountants coming in have not used MIP before. So we want to basically make sure that we understand how to use the system really well and use it to its full potential. And then we'll be building training modules for student organizations and funding bodies in terms of like how to allocate funds, how to access funds, things like that. So the next slide. So these were more long-term goals, but I wanted to highlight a couple that we've already done. So like one was software add-ons. So looking at other software modules we can purchase that work with MIP to help us with processing. That obviously is a cost. So we have not implemented that yet. For rec processing, understanding how to use cognitoforms better, which is part of the rec revision that I'll talk about. And then also looking at other software similar to cognitoforms. And when we did that research, we just found that cognitoforms works best for what we need it to do. And then in terms of process efficiencies, again, just more investing in training to become expert in using our accounting system and understand how to overall improve our processes so that it's not so complex and doesn't take so long to complete turnaround time for recs. So the next slide, some other key accomplishments for our area. So again, we hired our assistant manager position, which was a vacancy. We've also contracted through Robert Half, a senior accountant. Stephen, he's the one who prepared all the budget docs for us, and he is helping support Beverly in the audit that we're currently in for last year's financials. We rebuilt the USA and GSA budgets from the ground up. So basically redesigned that spreadsheet and used a lot of different formulas to help us make sure that we're getting the most accurate fee calculations for you all. We also created the USA referendum list. I talked about it a little bit when I presented the budget, but this is really pivotal because if you notice when you get your Bruin bills, like how you are charged for your student fees, it's not super clear. Like they just say, oh, it's an undergraduate fee. And you're like, well, what does that mean? Because that number doesn't match to anything that we know in our budget doc. So that sheet essentially has every single dollar that students pay and what we know on the student government side, what that referendum is called. And then on the Bruin bill side, what you're actually being billed for, because some fees are combined. So that has been really huge in terms of understanding what are historic fees, fees that don't adjust to inflation, those kind of things. So that took a lot of time and research and just rebuilding that and using documents from the university and then also using our own budget docs. We also renovated the SGA office. That was a really huge thing that we initially were trying to budget for, but you know, when that kind of fell through, we still tried to be creative to find ways to acquire different furniture and make the space cleaner, more organized, and more inviting for students. We also had a backlog of records from 3 years prior that needed to be digitized that were just sitting in boxes in the area. So we sent those off and were able to take care of that. We also did the updates to the rec form, and we redefined the process for auditing and processing recs. So the biggest change to the requisition form that you'll see now, which kind of taps more into the functionality of Cognito forms, is that when you submit it, our team is going to review and audit it in Cognito forms. That helps us be able to update the status, whether or not it's missing a document or is missing something that makes us not able to process it. And then we can kick it back to the preparer before it ever moves on and say, hey, fix this issue, then send it back. We'll verify it's good. Then we'll give you a PDF version to then take and get signed by your funding chair. This will actually make things quicker because we know when we get a rec with the funding chair signature, we can just turn out a check. We don't have to audit it. We already know it's good. And it also allows us using Cognito forms to track the status means we won't ever lose anything. So right before how we were doing it, we would just get things by email. We would print it out. If it had an issue, we had to deal with it and track down the student and say, hey, help fix this issue. But that's a piece of paper that can easily be lost or misplaced. So by doing it in Cognito forms, we never lose track of where that requisition is at. And we make sure we always have, anytime we can have a rec number, we can go in to that system and we can see exactly what the status is. If it's been processed to check, if it's missing any backup docs, like whatever the issue is. And then we're also able to now download that Excel report from Cognito forms, and we can just put that directly onto the website. And now anybody can go and look at that form, that sheet of data and say, oh, okay, here's my rec number. I see it right here. Here's the status of it. And we're able to right now, I mean, obviously we haven't had a ton of recs come in yet, but right now, like when we're getting them, we're auditing them that same day. And we're able to then send it back the same day and say, here, go get your signature and we'll process a check. So I really do think it's going to make things much quicker to turn around. And again, like not losing track of things, which was a really big issue when relying on things passing through by email to multiple different people. Now it's going to places it can go and get lost. But all that to say, you know, now that we are using the system, definitely if you notice issues with it, it may be a simple form functionality that we can update. If you just let us know, we can kind of like troubleshoot that, fix it, and then make sure it's updated for other students to use. But because this is the first time that the form is being implemented, we kind of need that trial by error of just using it in real time. And I will also say that none of the information has changed. So all the information is exactly the same from the prior rec. We've just reordered it a little bit and put more descriptive text to help students figure out what they're filling out. And then we've also separated them by requisition type so that if you give us a rec number, we can tell by the number you give us whether it's a reimbursement or an honorarium or a cash advance or whatever. So that also helps us track down the document faster. The next slide, I think, is just updates of what SGA looked like before. So you can see it was very messy, disorganized, lots of paper everywhere. Some of that was backlog of stuff, of files. It just wasn't really a nice space to be in. And then if you go to the last slide, it's our updated, remodeled office, which is much more clean, much more welcoming. The top right picture, so the big desk is our reception desk where we're doing like check pickup and general customer service. And then the smaller desk is our other student workstation, primarily used for like auditing recs and processing and entering things in MIP. And then the left picture is our two manager desks. So Josh, who I'm sure you all know, who's our SGA accountant, and then Beverly's desk, who's our assistant manager. But yeah, so and all of that furniture we acquired from different departments in ASUCLA, including Jonathan Wisner. So you may recognize some of that furniture, but we essentially were able to do this for like very little cost. So it was important to us that bringing in new team members, establishing new processes and procedures, that we had the space that also matched and was nice and inviting and welcoming. And hopefully we'll eventually get some artwork on the walls and make it look a little bit less like a dentist office in there. But yeah, so that's kind of it. I just wanted to, again, frame it that a lot of this stuff is coming up new or maybe sounds new, but most of it is not things that we've really changed, like policy wise. They're already pre-established policies that we have, but we didn't have it documented anywhere. And we want to make sure it's accessible to students so y'all understand like what the different financial policies, like we're adhering to GAPS standards. You know, we're making sure we're audited annually. So there's a lot of things that go into processing an SGA that most students are not really aware of. So we just want to make sure that it's easily digestible and that y'all can find it and understand what the policies are. But a lot of the impetus for doing this was that KPMG assessment that we did, I want to say not last summer, but the summer before, and their recommendations on how to improve our processing and procedures to make sure that we are being more efficient, we're making less errors, processing time is quicker. Like our most important goal is to get y'all paid and to process when we have reimbursements and whatnot. So that's where we're going, and excited to present more updates in the future, but just wanted to kind of give that as like some framing of why we have a policy doc coming out and why the changes to the requisition form and the processing of recs to kind of make it flow better for everybody. So if anybody has questions, feel free, but that's all I got. Thank you, Josh, for sharing.
Robbie.
Thank you for that, Jessica. It's very helpful. I have, it could be a stupid question, so feel free to laugh.
No stupid questions.
In the new rec process, after SGA audits it and makes sure that it's good to go, whatever, does it get kicked back to the preparer or to the signatory?
So yes, so it's going to go back to the preparer. And then the preparer is going to be responsible to get it signed by the funding chair to get it approved.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I ran into an issue today because my chief of staff had submitted a requisition and then like she got it back from SGA and it said like a quick blurb about how the funding director has to sign it. But like I think that given our offices, it's not necessarily like the funding director for a lot of cases. It just has to be like the signatory and FICOM. And I think that the language should be clarified. Um, like if not just like if not like how to explain it? If not like a different blurb for different like requisitions and different account numbers and just like a longer explanation of like what the next steps are for different types of like requisitions and different account numbers because that was confusing. And then she told me the the person helping me out she told me that the like the exceptions to FICOM because I asked her, well, doesn't FICOM sign on off on everything? And then she was like, no, if it's BOD or if it's TGIF, FICOM doesn't have to sign off on it. So I was confused because it also said BOD, TGIF, CS Mini, et cetera, et cetera. No, actually, no, it was just those funds and contingency. And so I got confused because it's like because it's a new process. Um, I think that it needs just more clear language because it's going to confuse other people as well who have like been experienced with that process of getting it signed by the signatory of the org and then FICOM. So we figured it out, but that's basically my um request to have more clear language on the new process for students to receive email and correspondence back.
Yeah, thank you for that. Definitely we'll look into how we can add more description. The signatures are for the most part the same. And they basically are dependent on the funding source, right? But the only change, the major change to the signature part is that normally we would ask for the person preparing the rec to also sign, but we have now built that into the form. So they're signing when they submit the form. So then their part's done. So the only other signatures they need are the funding authority. So if it's your own direct office funds, you got to sign, or your designated person. If it's, contingency, FICOM's got to sign. If it's TGIF funds, TGIF's got to sign. So all of those signatures are staying the same, but we will definitely make sure that we like maybe send a longer email explanation. Like if you're using these types of funding sources, these are the signatures you need, so that they know who to send it to afterward. So thank you for that.
Chris Espino, did you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. Thanks, Adam, for acknowledging me. My question is, this same presentation that you guys provided for us, is it possible to provide, for example, to our office's director of finance, right? We want to make sure that I know that my director of finance has been very interested in receiving the training because of the fact that there have been a smorgasbord of changes. Is it possible? Do y'all have like during office hours, can y'all provide this training or just this overview to directors? I don't know. I'm sure my office is not the only office that would like perhaps for their director to have some kind of presentation around what was presented today. I just want to understand whether or not this is a possibility.
Yes, definitely. I believe we now have everybody's finance contacts. So we can definitely, I can circle back in Slack and just make sure we're not missing anybody, but happy to, we do want to actually schedule a training for everybody just to go over not only the funding allocation process, but also the rec process, the signatory process, all of that. So, and then obviously throughout the year, the goal is to stay connected with these folks, just to ensure ongoing training, support, communication. That's what we're here for. So we definitely will be setting that up in the next week or so.
Sorry, DC, I didn't know you had a photo up. Go ahead.
So that, so my question, my last question is if the preparer is a signatory or if it's me or whatever, do they have to get, is that like an automatic, then the signatory is like fine, they just have to email it back to FICOM because the signatory already signed it as a preparer?
No, so the preparer is just the person filling out the rec form. So one, you should never be, it's not good practice to be filling out, if it's your funding source and you're the signatory approving your funding and you're preparing your own rec and signing it to approve, you shouldn't do that. You should have one of your other signatories. So like if you're using your own office funds for your own purchase, have your other signatories sign off approving it. It's just good practice. But no, the preparer signature is just the person saying like, I'm preparing this form and I'm verifying that everything in this form is like correct. And it still needs the signatory to sign it to approve the expense of the funding. So, if it's your own office funds, then you would have to sign under the commissioner's signature, hard signature, right? Because that's what we use for validating. Basically, the reason why we need the signatures hard copy on the form is so that when we take our checks to finance, they look through every rec and they look at the signature and they say, okay, yeah, this is this person's signature, to ensure that the money's going out over the proper approval. So yeah, you would still need to sign it. You would still need to have a signatory sign it to approve the funding. And in most cases for your offices and whatnot, FICOM is like the ultimate signatory, so they can kind of sign off on anything and everything. And so, at least if it has the FICOM signature, you're good to go. You wouldn't necessarily need both, but yeah, there may be other circumstances where it might be like a one-off thing that we'll just have to give further guidance on in the moment. But yeah, you should really have someone else on your team prepare the requisition form if you're going to be signing to authorize the approval of the expense.
Sorry, one last follow-up. Wait, sorry, I'm blanking. Hold on. Oh, one thing that I also had an issue with is that she received the requisition back, like after it got approved by SGA and get the signatures. The issue was that she didn't get the PDF emailed back to her. So I just putting that on your radar that she eventually sent it to me with the PDF, but just making sure that other students don't face that.
Yeah, so I'm actually I have a meeting with SGA tomorrow to go back over the process because I think there's just been some confusion with like that part, sending it with the PDF, but there should always be a PDF attached. So if anybody gets something back from SGA and they're like, go ahead and sign it, and there's no PDF, just reply back and ask for that. But we're gonna make sure we get that part of it clarified so that we ensure that it is coming through with the PDF attached. And it should have all documents that you uploaded too. So like if you're doing a reimbursement and you upload a copy of your receipt, the email you get back from SGA should have your PDF of your rec, the PDF of your receipt that you uploaded, any other attachments, and then you send that whole packet on to the funding chair to sign it and return to SGA.
Nico?
Well, maybe not quick, but for the quarter soft close, could you kind of elaborate more on what we should expect from that?
Yeah, so that's basically internal for our MIP system. So what that entails is reconciling all of our income and all of our expenses to make sure we've captured everything in our accounting system properly. But that will also include if you have a funding body and you have funding allocations, that, we've closed out all the recs for that quarter, that there's no unspent allocations just sitting there. So part of that process will be when we review for the quarter all of the accounts, we may be reaching out to certain funding chairs and saying, hey, you have all these open allocations from the quarter that have not spent any money. You know, do you need to close out these accounts and make it available to reallocate, or like what's going on here? And then, you know, requisitions should really be submit in a timely manner. So if you're allocated funding in fall quarter, you need to spend that money in fall quarter, and you need to turn in your rec as soon as you spend that money. We have experienced this often in the past, and this is part of the thing that we're trying to reduce is receiving recs in June that were things for expenses from October or September, right? Like those should be submit when they're spent. So that's the other major part of soft closing, is that we're basically saying we're closing the quarter and we're not going to process anything else for fall quarter. So, you know, you're going to have a rec deadline for fall quarter that we need everything turned in by. And we call it a soft close because we do want to be, you know, flexible to deal with situations that arise, or like one-off instances where, you know, a hard close at the end of our year means we are not going back and processing anything else from that year. Like we're done. We're moving into audit, like no more recs. Doing a soft close, there will be a cutoff. And so we'll make sure we clearly communicate all those deadlines. But yeah, basically it just means like we're gonna reconcile everything in our accounting system and stop processing for that quarter once we've moved into a new quarter, to keep everything more timely so that we're not piling everything up to the end of the year, which delays everything else. It delays closing, it delays audit, it delays then the next year getting your surplus and carryover numbers. There's just all of these impacts that is not so easy to see in the moment until you're at the end of the year trying to close. So yeah, that's kind of a gist of what the quarterly close is going to entail, but it's just to keep our records current and up to date and make sure that students are submitting their recs in a timely manner. Funding chairs are checking their allocations and making sure nothing needs to be closed and reallocated, all of those things.
Any other questions for Jessica? Perfect. Thank you, Jessica. We are now going to move on to our appointments, starting with Academic Senate Undergraduate Council. We have Sujana. Just a reminder for all appointments, we're going to start with a 1-minute opening statement, followed by a 15-minute question and answer period, then a 1-minute closing statement. Then we will hear ARC's recommendations, then have council deliberations, and then we will vote. With that being said, Sujana, whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1-minute opening.
Thank you, and hello, everyone. Hopefully you all can hear me. My name is Sujana Sridhar, pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm currently a 4th-year student pursuing 2 double degrees in International Development Studies and Political Science, as well as a minor in French. I'm applying for the role of student representative to the Undergraduate Council because the council has significant power to shape student life on campus, and I'm someone who can use it effectively, efficiently, and for the best possible causes. As a student representative on the council last year, I was instrumental in passing the incomplete notation proposal, which removed permanent incomplete notations from student transcripts. This year, I hope to enact change that is just as powerful in different areas of undergraduate life. Last year, I was privy to discussions on transfer admissions, academic leniency, and more. I will not only follow up on these issues, but pursue those that matter to me and to the rest of the student body as well. I hope I can have the opportunity to do so, and I thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Sujana. We're now going to move on to a 15-minute question and answer period by council members. With that being said, do any council members have any questions? Chris Espino.
Hey, Sujana. I hope you're doing well. My question for you is just let the council know a little bit more about like the incomplete notation policy and how impactful it was for the UCLA community.
Definitely. Hi, Chris. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about the proposal, which is very important to me. So the former UCLA policy was that if a student receives an incomplete notation on a course, rather if a student receives an incomplete for a course, that notation will remain on their transcript permanently, even after the incomplete notation is resolved and they receive a final letter grade. This is a policy that really disproportionately affects students that may have to take incomplete notations more often, such as students with disabilities, health problems, perhaps persistent health problems, student with dependence, or really in any otherwise extenuating circumstance. And this then goes on to have an effect on their post-grad opportunities, such as applying to fellowships, scholarships, grad school, employment, and so on. There are also policies at UCLA which state that if you have an incomplete notation on your transcript, you may not be eligible for certain school provided and school funded fellowships, scholarships, and opportunities as well. And so this initiative was actually started. I definitely have to give credit to the undergraduate and graduate council representatives from the 2020 to 2021 school year who recognized this problem and started the work on creating this proposal. But unfortunately, because the proposal was brought to the council towards the end of that school year, there were changes that needed to be made, and obviously there was turnover with representatives. It unfortunately was not addressed for the next couple years, or it was kind of sporadically addressed, but not really picked back up and followed through until this past 2023 to 2024 school year, when I partnered with the graduate council representatives as well as the disabled student union to pick the proposal back up and really ensure that it is brought to council and approved and followed through on. And so that is what happened. We spent months communicating with the registrar and with other school entities to get the necessary statistics, such as the number of students who take incompletes, and so on and so forth, getting student testimonial on how the incomplete notation has perhaps personally impacted their opportunities, and also meeting with the undergraduate council and graduate council personnel, the actual voting members, faculty and admin, to advocate to them to get their feedback on it, to ensure that it would go through. We brought the proposal to undergraduate and graduate council, and we had a question and answer period where we were able to address all of the concerns, the potential contingencies of the proposal. For example, the fact that incomplete notations, or rather the incomplete notation on the transcript is used to track students who are on academic probation. And so there is, a very complicated process with going back to fix that and how that could, mess up tracking students who are on academic probation. So, confirming that we know how we'll deal with that and that it's possible to still do that with removing permanent incomplete notations. After months of deliberation, we finally got a positive answer. We were successful. The proposal passed, and permanent incomplete notations were removed effective fall 2025. I think there was, a email that went out to the entire student body about it. So maybe you remember seeing something about it towards the end of last year. But that was the process, which I'm very proud of.
Thank you, Sujana. Are there any other questions for Sujana? Kiara.
Hi there. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and for sharing so much about Chris's question that he asked. The question I wanted to ask you, so with your vast experience that you've described, how would you say that would shape your approach to achieving the goals that you have if appointed to the position this year?
Thank you so much for your question. Yes, I definitely shared at length. But as to what you mentioned, I think I would definitely love to test to what I learned from that incomplete notation proposal process, which is that it is so important to consider the preferences, the sensibilities, if you will, of the faculty and the administration on the committee. Understanding that as full-time faculty and admin, they really do have a vastly different perspective from students. Their considerations are highly pragmatic and economic even. And so being able to tailor my advocacy process to that and combining student considerations, which are undoubtedly so important and my priority, with the considerations of faculty and admin, combining them and making sure that I can address all possible contingencies of a proposal that I'll bring up, that a proposal wouldn't make their lives that much harder, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who have the control, who have the power to approve or disapprove the proposal. And so I do have to make sure that it's something that makes sense to them and that that they can visualize integrating into their daily lives. I also think it is so important that I extend and actually do much more this year, potentially, to engage with student groups. My work with the Disabled Student Union was very rewarding, and I realized that I have, not me, but the representatives have so much power to really help these marginalized student groups, underserved student groups, get stuff done, and they may not realize it, or they may just not have had representatives previously who were willing to really put in the time and work to put together a great proposal. And so I would love to expand my work to many more student groups, realizing how important and how meaningful that last accomplishment was, to help them with what matters most to them. So I think those are the two priorities that I'll consider in my advocacy work next year.
Thank you. Timian?
Hey, Sujana, thanks a lot for being here. My question is, what ideas do you have for improving academic support services for non-native English speakers?
This is an excellent question. I haven't engaged too much with that community in my previous work, but I do think that there is a lot that can be said for advocating to professors to include support for non-native English speakers in their syllabus. And so something that the undergraduate council does have power to do is to make a recommendation to professors, or even to require to professors to include something in their syllabus that may include extra support for non-native English speakers, extra office hours, for example, or even for professors who do not record their lectures, for example, that they may be required to record their lectures and specifically provide them to non-native English speakers, so that they may be able, perhaps if they have difficulty following and grasping everything live, that they have the opportunity to do so later, as kind of a special exception. So I think first advocating to professors and even putting forth a proposal to require that professors make their students as accessible to non-native English speakers is really important. Because this is mostly academic, most of the recommend, or rather, because the undergraduate council mostly deals with academic matters, most of the recommendations that I could make through this council would be largely academic, but it would also definitely be worth creating, I could also definitely advocate for the creation within each department at the school, a specific committee or even professor. You can designate someone within that department to take specific point on matters concerning non-native English speaking students, perhaps a professor who has had a similar experience, and so who can be like the best possible advocate and representative in that case. That way, non-native English speaking students have someone who they feel comfortable going to with any problems that they may have, and that they can access academic support easily through that avenue as well, if they have even any grievances that they want to bring up, that could be a possible avenue. Obviously, I think it's really important for non-native English speaking students to have community as much as possible, and that's something that's very important. But from the academic angle and from what I can do through undergraduate council, I think advocating to professors and advocating for departments to have a specific personnel committee, or in some way resources dedicated to non-native English speaking students is really important, and something that we could definitely do.
Any other questions from council members? Seeing none, Sujana, whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1 minute closing statement.
Definitely. I want to just thank you all so much for listening to me again tonight and for asking me such thoughtful questions. As a previous representative, I really am very eager to continue my work and to start new projects alike. I'm looking forward to fighting anti-transfer sentiment, to supporting students on the reduced fee program, refining the grading grievance progress, advocating academic leniency for affected students, managing Bruin 1 access and the ethnic studies requirement. There is so much work to be done. I will be in close communication with the commissioner and student body to ensure student voices are represented on the committee. I will connect with the student body in any way possible. UGC really does have the power to influence all aspects of student life, which is not something I take lightly at all. As such, I really do hope I have the opportunity to make the best possible use of this role and bring tangible, positive change to UCLA. So thank you so much again.
Thank you, Sujana. We're now going to hear ARC's recommendations.
Sujana presented a very impressive interview with ARC, receiving a 3-0 vote. ARC was impressed with Sujana's accomplishments last year, having served as last year's AAC and even implementing a policy to remove permanent incomplete notations from transcripts while serving on UGC last year. ARC recommends Sujana for this appointment and is looking forward to seeing what Sujana accomplishes on this committee this year, especially with her goals of pushing for more academic leniency.
Perfect. We're now going to move on to council deliberations. At first, I thought Sujana might be a bit underqualified, but I think her interview convinced me otherwise. Unless anyone has any comments or concerns, I think we should just move to a vote. Javier?
I'll just make this quick. Hi, Sujana. Hope you're doing well. I just want to say that I will be abstaining from this vote just because of the fact that I have worked with Sujana in a professional capacity in the past, during her term as AAC. I really, really appreciate all the work that you do and all the support that you've given to members of the disabled community, especially as a member myself, in supporting us navigating the academic senate, especially with this amazing change to policy on incomplete notations as well. Would highly, highly recommend her for literally anything here at UCLA that is offered. She is amazing.
Thank you. Chris?
I won't make this go longer. We know how incredible Sujana is. I will also be abstaining.
Alicia?
Thank you for coming, Sujana, and I want to plus one what Javi said. And because we were officers during the same year, I'll also abstain, but I just want to say you have my support.
Can we get a motion, please? Chris?
I motion to appoint Sujana for the undergraduate council committee for the 2024-2025 school year.
Any seconds?
I second.
Chris Espino motions, Tamim seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 9-0 to 3 vote, that motion passes and Sujana is appointed to the Academic Senate. Thank you, everyone. We are now going to move on to our next Academic Senate appointment, this time the Faculty Executive Committee. We have Julian. Hey, Julian, whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1-minute opening speech.
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Julian Chowdhury. I go by he, him pronouns. I'm a first year here at UCLA going into the business economics major. And I'm applying for the Faculty Executive Committee. So why do I think I would be good for this role? Well, I already have managerial and leadership experience, whether that's from my time founding and leading an international improv and mindfulness organization in high school, or running my own small business on Etsy. I also realize that this position requires somebody who is personable, sociable, can talk to faculty and students alike, process their concerns on issues, and then spark action or at least advise on it, which I think my time as a professional actor has definitely prepared me for. Through that experience, I've learned how to thrive off of empathy, literally stepping into other people's shoes and seeing seeing issues from their perspectives, which I think would be valuable to the committee considering the responsibilities I've highlighted. And then just overall, while I may be new to UCLA, I'm not new to people. And so yeah, thank you for considering me.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to the 15-minute question and answer period. Do any council members have any questions? Chris Espino.
Hello. Thank you for being here. My first question is, what is your understanding of the Academic Senate?
Sure. So again, I'm a freshman. I'll be super upfront. I don't have a lot of specific insights into what legislation has already been enacted and what's being focused on right now. I'm ready and able to research those issues and look further into that. But I think coming from my perspective right now, where I'm not like fully in the know or fully informed on these issues, I think setting up some form of procedure going into these discussions with the committee, first off, identifying what the issue is at hand, going through legislation, seeing what pertains to the issue, and then sort of coming up with my own conclusions about what the student body perspective is on the issues before advising the committee on action to be taken.
Julian, why did you want to be on the faculty executive committee specifically?
Sure. Well, I'm really just looking to put myself out there, gain some leadership experience. Obviously, this committee is a great opportunity to connect with a wide variety of students and faculty alike. So that's a major plus for me. But I'm also just looking for leadership experience, which I think this committee really defines. I think oftentimes when people hear the word leadership, they think of sort of like a sole venture, right? Something that one person just kind of takes the helm of an operation. But I think what this committee would give me the ability to do is really explore the side of leadership that's focused on connection with people, what representation truly means. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Diego?
Awesome. Hi, Julian. I'm Diego. Are there any specific issues you would like to address coming into this committee? You can feel free to dive into any past experiences, but there's 3 subcommittees, one of them being the DEI Special Committee. You can obviously explain and describe any past experiences with DEI initiatives.
Sure.
Just so feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, when I was in high school, I served as the sole student government representative for a hybrid program I was a part of that largely consisted of people who came from historically marginalized backgrounds. So I have experience in speaking up for people that are often overlooked in administrative decisions. Coming here, I realize we have a very diverse student body with literally thousands and thousands of undergraduates. Another key group that I think is important to highlight is our transfer student community. Coming from a freshman perspective, we share one thing in common, which is that we're coming into this new school, this large school, unsure of where to find the resources that we may want. And so I think one sort of key initiative that I would be interested in is ensuring that we're bringing resources to new students rather than sort of just having them and letting them figure it out, if that makes sense.
Chris Espino.
My next question is, how would you ensure that faculty from all departments, including smaller or underfunded programs, have an equal voice in the decision-making process of the Senate?
Sure. Well, I think just at a base level for representation, it really starts with outreach. So speaking to department heads, speaking to chairs, speaking to different leaders within that department, figuring out what it is exactly that they may want funding for or what initiatives that they're currently interested in. So that can involve Google Forms, focus groups, just one-on-one conversations, and then interpreting those things that they may care about and bringing that to the committee.
Javier?
Hi. So my question for you is, given the fact that a growing or a still pervasive issue amongst like students and faculty alike, especially going into the school year, is the concerns of academic freedom and free speech here on campus. I want to ask what your perspectives are on that, and how in this role on the faculty executive committee will you help ensure that that is continued to be prioritized, not just in the academic senate, but in the greater UCLA community?
Of course. Well, I'm a firm believer in free speech, especially for students. I think so often in society, this is kind of getting really holistic here, but we'll go for it. so often in society, we kind of view the world in two perspectives, right? Especially in America, we have sort of this like normalized perspective that's often attached to whiteness. And then we have marginalized communities, which people often label as an other, right? So coming into this community, this thriving, diverse community, I think an important mentality change that needs to happen is that everyone is a student, right? Everyone wants their voice heard, and wants to be considered in important decisions that are being made. And so I think supporting students involved in protests on either side of certain global issues, or just local issues is really important. And I will definitely make that a top priority, that their safety is ensured.
Tamim?
Spoke a lot about marginalized communities, and my question to you is, how would you ensure that faculty are aware and sensitive to the unique challenges faced by these marginalized communities?
Sure. Okay. Well, I guess I'll start with my experience. I am half Indian, half Jewish. My parents like to call me a Hindu. Um, and my mom's an immigrant from India. So I, especially working in the entertainment industry, I've definitely felt the effects of discrimination based on identity-based factors. And so I really understand, first off, the importance of being heard in these discussions. I think again, it really relates back to outreach and doing everything we can, whether that's Google Forms, whether that's focus groups, whether that's one-on-one conversations with people, hearing their perspective, right? Listening is so important, especially around sensitive issues, or divisive issues, right? We just want everyone to be heard, first off. And then, you know, ensuring that everyone's voice is being considered equally, which I don't think is that hard to do. You literally just have to sit there and listen to people and try to understand what they're saying, right? So that's step one. And then bringing those conclusions that may have arisen from those conversations to faculty through presentation-based forms is totally within my reach.
Mrs. Pino?
Some tactics you think are important or effective in engaging folks who have historically been unengaged?
Historically unengaged with anything. Okay. Sorry, can you just repeat the question one more time?
Unengaged. I'll give an example. I'm former foster youth.
Okay.
Right? If you want to develop a mentorship program, you have to make sure you build rapport with foster youth in order for them to be engaged with what you're trying to sell to them, right? Because there's a history of there's this lack of trust.
Sure.
So without using that example, how do you engage people? What tactics do you employ for historically unengaged people?
Sure. Well, I think first off, talking with people within that unengaged community, whatever the issue might pertain to, understanding what issues are important to them, and then relating that to the issue at hand that we seek to get them engaged with, if that kind of is what you're asking. So again, I think the power of conversation is a really effective medium, especially for engaging with people that are historically unengaged, if that answers your question. Sorry, I think I kind of misinterpreted what you were asking, but yeah.
Any other questions from council members? Yes, Spino.
Question is, tell us something we don't know about you, something you haven't said, something that you think we should know about you.
Sure. I was also a TA in high school. So I worked with my English teacher who was in charge of planning all 4 years of our English department courses, and the requirements to graduate for honors and non-honors. So I do have experience as far as the academic planning side goes of developing curriculums, ensuring that they meet the learning outcomes that the department is aiming for. So yeah, I have academic planning experience.
Thank you, everyone. Julian, whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1-minute closing statement.
Sure. Well, I realize being a freshman and applying for this kind of position is really uncommon and unlikely. But considering my background in acting, I know I adapt well. You know, every single job is a new project, new management style, new people involved, right? New ways of conflict resolution and handling. And so I think my transition in USAC shouldn't be too difficult on that front. I'm ready and willing to research the issues at hand. Also, but I think my time management skills are decent, considering that, again, I'm just transitioning into fall quarter classes, spending the time to apply for this committee, and applying for clubs as well. And yeah, something that I mentioned in my initial application is that I think my decision to apply as a first year, if that kind of says anything, it's that I'm not one to back down from a challenge, even if that is significantly outside of my comfort zone. I'm ready to push myself and learn and grow in any ways necessary.
Thank you, Julian. We're now going to hear ARC's recommendations.
During Julian's ARC interview, Julian demonstrated a strong passion for advocacy and working directly with faculty to address the needs of student concerns. ARC felt that this applicant's answers lacked some specificity, however, and would have appreciated some more concrete ideas on how to better serve underrepresented communities. Julian received a 1 yes vote and 2 abstains from ARC.
Thank you, Josh. We're now going to move into council member deliberations. Do any council members have any comments or concerns about the applicant? Josh.
Hi, Julian. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I did vote yes in your ARC interview. I did see some potential, and I wanted to hear more about what you want to say at council tonight. But I think I'll be actually voting no, just because I think I would have liked to have seen some more specific ideas. I think it would also be nice if I saw a little more knowledge about the academic senate as a whole in this particular committee. And I think especially being an appointment on the academic senate, it's really important to have like specific communities or policies that you want to advocate for. So I hope to see where you apply as well if you aren't appointed tonight. But yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Kiara.
Hi there, echoing what Josh said, thank you for being here tonight. I commend you for being here as a first year and wanting to take part in higher level, discussions on campus. But I do want to echo as well that I think what I was missing was also that specificity in terms of goals and what, certain also specificity regarding the role within the academic senate and what, challenges and what challenges are facing students and what your visions look like in that space. Also regarding campus policy, since I think knowledge of that is vital to that role and knowing the larger context when approaching what you're hoping to do within it. And so that is what I was lacking a little bit. I will unfortunately be voting no tonight, but thank you for being here.
Diego.
Hi, Julian. Unfortunately, I will also be voting no. In the ARC interview notes, I abstained just because I didn't really see anything that stood out to me in here today at council. Unfortunately, as well, none of the answers that you gave us had a lot of substance to them. However, I do want to thank you for coming out here and taking initiative as a first year here on campus and finding leadership experiences. I think this year is just very important to the UCLA community since we're getting a new chancellor, since there are new policies based on the actions that happened last spring in terms of UCLA administration, and there are new policies like TPM, or even UCLA expanding DEI initiatives such as the Hispanic Serving Institution. I think someone in this position needs to have, like my council members mentioned, someone experienced in engaging with communities or an understanding of UCLA policies. So which is why I will be voting no. But I do highly suggest, your first year, please, I welcome that you find probably any internship positions here on council or find other ways to be engaged with the UCLA community. So yeah, thank you so much for coming out here tonight.
Thanks, Diego. Chris Ramsey.
Here, I will be voting no. I think those reasons were already echoed. That being said, I do really appreciate you coming out today. I think it is really hard to go into these meetings, especially as a first year, just coming into the school. So I think it's very impressive. And I think that, on our side, it's really just the fact that, it is important that everyone who applies does have some sort of like a lot of knowledge about the position coming into it to be able to appoint them. We do appoint first years. And so I think that if anything stands out to you in the future in terms of USAC positions in committees or in individual offices, you can definitely follow like our Instagrams, for example, to see positions. Then definitely, research them, reach out to people who are in those positions. kind of see if anything like really stands out to you that you'd be really qualified for. And if you're interested, I encourage you to continue applying. So yeah, so right now I'll be voting no. But in the future, if you come back and there's something that you're like really motivated to join, and have the like requisite experience for and knowledge of the position, I'd be happy to vote yes.
Any other comments from council members? Seeing none, could I please get a motion? Have you?
I move to vote on the appointment of Julian Chowdhury to the Faculty Executive Committee of the Academic Senate. I move to appoint Julian Chowdhury to the Faculty Executive Committee of the Academic Senate for the 2024 to 25 academic year.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Have you motions, Robbie seconds, all in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 1 to 12 to 0 vote, unfortunately, we are unable to appoint you to the Academic Senate today, but I appreciate your effort. I know it's hard coming out here as a first year, so thank you so much for coming out, and we hope to see more of you in the future. Thank you.
Sorry for wasting your time, everybody.
You didn't waste our time. You didn't waste our time. Thank you so much for coming. We're now going to move on to the next appointments in the CS mini fund. We have Zarif. I'm unsure whether they're here in person or online.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1 minute opening statements.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so hello, my name is Zadif Khan. I'm a third-year psychology major and linguistics major, and I'm minoring in data science engineering. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm going to be applying for the Community Service Mini Fund. Over my time at UCLA, I've been involved in Henna with a Heart, a service organization geared towards the education and practice of Henna with a Heart, of Henna art, using our skills to raise money for a multitude of charities in and around our community. And through my time with them, I've held a number of different positions that have given me a lot of experience in different aspects of organizing and maintaining a club, as well as how to be on a active board, and as well as how to communicate my feelings and opinions on certain like community-based aspects. So one thing I feel is very important when running a club is decision making. Being the new head of this club has given me the opportunity to be involved in the process of deciding how we run and who we are, essentially. I believe that my experience with this everyday long-term decision making would make me a very valuable member of the Community Service Mini Fund, as our mission to promote community service throughout our community is something that I'm very passionate about, and the ability to allocate funds for community service would be a tremendous opportunity for me to be able to aid in that mission.
Thank you so much. We're now going to move on to the 15-minute question and answer period by council members. With that being said, do any council members have any questions for the applicants? Kiara.
Hi there. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm Kiara. The question I have for you is, could you explain a little bit more about a few of the goals that you have for the year if appointed, and how you plan on approaching accomplishing these?
So I would say a few of the goals that I would have is honestly just kind of like spotlighting underserved and like historically marginalized communities in UCLA, as well as like maybe non-traditional students, trying to get like them a lot of the funding that they need, or like to allocate funds to community service organizations that kind of like target them and kind of uplift them specifically. In my experience, I have like had a lot of experience working with these groups as well in my time. And I have noticed that there are a few like organizations on campus that are geared towards them, but I feel like a lot of them don't have a lot of the resources or like power maybe, or just ability to help them in the entire way that they may need. And so me being on the CS Mini Fund, I feel like I would be able to kind of spotlight them a little more, make sure that they have more of a voice and more of a person on the committee to kind of like uplift them and kind of like get those people the help that they need. And yeah.
Thank you. Are there any
I
other
hope I
questions
answered your
from council
question.
members? Kiara, follow up.
Okay, wait. Okay, now it's working. Thank you for answering my question. Just a quick follow-up. I know you're talking about engaging with various groups on campus, especially those including students in marginalized communities. I wanted to ask you if you could explain a little bit more about how you plan, what is your approach to engaging with these communities and yeah, engaging with them to make sure, you know, appealing to the broad amount of populations we have on campus.
Yeah, so I would say communication is a very big like aspect of this, especially outreach to these communities and trying to kind of like be able to find somebody within maybe the orgs that I talked about that are kind of geared towards them, just kind of trying to like be more active in their spaces, trying to meet people, trying to see what kind of like their issues are, just trying to meet them where they are at currently, and just try to, you know, like see where they are and just help them in any way possible. I would say a lot of the ways that I maybe would like practice this outreaching or this communication myself would just start practicing more like mindfulness about that and trying to put myself in a place that maybe I have not been to before, like just be more engaging and active with them specifically. But yeah, that's kind of like what I have with trying to engage with those communities.
Thank you. Do any other council members have questions? Seeing none, Zarif, whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today and giving me the opportunity to even be here today. I would just like to emphasize once again my enthusiasm and passion for community service. And being in this role, I would make the most of my ability, making sure to gear my service and keep in mind the underrepresented communities of UCLA, as well as the previously marginalized groups, working hard to bring forth the access and help that they may need. I did not get to go into a lot of my past and my background in community service. I've been helping out a lot, like doing a lot of volunteer service since I was about 15 years old. I've been on Skid Row. I've like made meal packs. I've made like a lot of like I don't know. I've been behind the scenes as well as on the front lines of making sure that people have the help and resources that they need. And I believe my um appointment to the Community Service Commission, I mean the Community Service Mini Fund would make I don't know, would just give me the incredible opportunity to help those people in need that are on my mind and in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're now going to hear ARC's recommendations.
Zarif presented an excellent interview with ARC, receiving a 3-0 vote. ARC was impressed with Zarif's commitment to service, including serving as the president of Hannah with a Heart and being involved in CSC. ARC is excited to see Zarif carry out his goals and funding more organizations that are committed to service and serving underrepresented groups. ARC highly recommends Zarif to this appointment.
Thank you, Josh. We're now going to move on to council member deliberations. Do any council members have any comments or concerns? Carolyn.
Hi, thank you for coming out. I just wanted to say I would very recommend voting yes. I'm abstaining because ARF is part of CSC, but as you can see from this discussion, as well as his interview and all of my interactions with him, he really does have a heart for service and has leadership experience within service and service organizations, and he truly understands the logistics and funding needed to run a community service project both behind the scenes and directly alongside communities. So I really do highly recommend voting yes. And yeah, but I'll be abstaining, unfortunately.
Thank you so much. Unless any council members have any concerns, I think we should move to a vote. If someone could motion.
I can motion. I wasn't here for the pronunciation of your name, so if you could just repeat that and then I'll. Sorry, I was not here.
It's Zarif, like Zar and then if. Hyphen, if
Okay.
you will.
I move to appoint Zarif Khan for the Community Service Mini Fund position for the 2024-2025 school year.
Seconds.
I second.
Chris Espino motions, Carolyn seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 11 to 0 to 2 votes, that motion passes and Zarif is appointed to the CS Mini Fund. Thank you all so much. We're now going to move on to appointment D with FICOM Vice Chair. We have Russell. Hey, Russell.
Good evening. Can you guys all see and hear me all right?
Yes, you're good. Whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1-minute opening statement.
Okay. Good evening, all. My name is Russell. He, him pronouns. I'm a second year studying economics, and this would be my second year on the finance committee and my first as the vice chair. And I think one thing I really learned a lot from vice chair or from being an associate last year was just how many clubs and how many needs for funding there are on the UCLA campus. And I think that really just showed me just how many ways I could help my fellow students just be able to form community and also to help the community around them. And I think just as finance committee associate last year, just being exposed to those needs and seeing those needs, I really emphasized how important student government is and how important it is that people know about funding. In a role as vice chair, I would push to just make sure that clubs and students in general at UCLA know that there is funding available for them and that the people who provide the funding are willing to help them and to partner with them so that they can get their funding. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to the 15-minute question and answer period by council members. With that being said, do any council members have any questions? Yes, Nico.
Hello. You mentioned that you want to help student orgs find funding. Could you elaborate more on more of like the specifics behind your plan with that?
Yeah, sure. So one of my roles as vice chair is I'm actually in charge of the finance committee Instagram. And I think that's just a really great opportunity for people to hear about finance committee because I know that a lot of people hear about the UCLA news through Instagram or online. And I think one of the ways we can just increase our visibility is just by posting more often on our Instagram, posting, some like what finance committee is, the resources we provide, and how to access those resources, how to apply to those resources, how to get to office hours to talk in person or on Zoom with an associate or with the vice chair, with the head chair, and just giving students first knowledge and then telling them that or encouraging them to interact with us, to talk with us, and just get to know us a bit more.
Javier.
Hi, Russell. You mentioned that it would be your second year on the FICON committee. I kind of want to ask more on elaborate more on your experience in this past year and just a little bit more on how you would improve upon the role that you're currently being heard on.
Sure. So I think just coming into finance committee last year, I wasn't really too familiar with like clubs at UCLA, but I think being on finance committee last year really again just showed me how many clubs there are on campus, how many different interests there are on campus, how many people or students that want to make events happen to help the community, and I think just seeing just clubs, I would see like frequent applicants, I would see new applicants sometimes. And I think one thing that would just help us on the committee as well as clubs that are applying is just adding a few more questions to the application. For example, right now we have a question that says, is it your first time applying to the contingency fund? And it's a yes or no. But I think we can go a bit deeper than that. I think we could add, was it your first year as a club, second year, just so we know that what clubs are new and just so that we know that, oh, this club is new, they might be more unfamiliar with the finance process. They might need a little bit more grace. They might need a little bit more, one-on-one help or just maybe extra funding just so that just so we can make sure that their club is off to a good start, a good strong start, and that they will be at UCLA for years to come.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council members? Seeing none. Russell, whenever you never mind, we have one more question from Nico.
Sorry. So my question for you relates like anything on the grounds of transparency. So how do you plan to promote transparency between FICOM and like FICOM's operations with the student orgs and the USAC entities who are applying for FICOM's funding bodies?
Yeah, I think one great way to do that is I think something that would help in general is just having frequently asked questions on our FICOM USAC website, just so when clubs are coming in to apply that they might have some extra like knowledge about questions that they might have answered before they have to talk to us. And I think increasing transparency, one way we could do that is by just when a club applies, and we get back to them on their funding, just letting them know like, oh, this is why you got this funding or this amount of funding and not this amount, or this is why or you got full funding, et cetera, and just making sure that they know like the logic or the thoughts behind why they got the funding that they had, and just just telling them like, oh, hey, if you have other questions, we'd be again happy to meet with you. Come to our office hours or apply again, and these are some ways that you could improve, or these are some things that you're doing great and to keep doing.
Nico?
And then, sorry, follow up to that. What, if you could elaborate on kind of like what the guidelines are for fund, like when someone requests funding, what do you look into their application and also like the past historical events of that organization to see if the funding would be approved or like how much funding you recommend for them?
Right. So usually when when clubs apply for funding, they just answer a few questions about one, their event, and two, what their club is about. So, um, say it's a bird watching club, they're gonna answer questions about what their club does, what it's about, and also questions specifically about the event that they're holding. And then after we look at those questions, they submit documentation or financial documentation. So, their cost estimates, the funding that they need for the event. And then as FICOM, we just look at their application and we just go through the documentation, make sure it matches up with, what they were describing in the event, and that, all the numbers are right, that they're not like overestimating or trying to get more funding than they need. But what we do is we just, we look at their documentation, and then from there, and based off of their answers that they provided about their event, that's how we evaluate how much funding to give to them. Does that help, or do I need to add more context?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking more about like when you grade the application and you look at
Mhm.
like what they requested versus how much you're allocating, how do you make those decisions between like how much they requested versus how much you're going to actually allocate to them?
Right. So I think that just is up to mostly our discretion and how much money we are allocated total to fund throughout the year. So because we can't fund max funding for every single club event that comes down our way, otherwise we'll run out of funding. So just like how I like specifically like look at allocating is I see like, oh, well, this is something that they really need. Like they really need food for this event. Maybe they could, and they like ask for some supplies. Maybe they have these supplies already that they can find from a friend. Like if it's like paper or like other basic supplies and your needs that they have if they're having like a meeting or something. And I just try to, well, they list their priorities of what they want funded first. So I make sure that they have that funding, and then if I think they don't deserve full funding, then I'll maybe cut off a little bit of from other sections.
Yes, Nico.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is my last question. So when you're looking at applications, do you look at to see how much prior funding or how much budget the entity has before making a decision? Kind of where I'm going with this is like, do you look at to see if smaller orgs with less funding, do they take precedent or priority over larger organizations that already have a lot of funding from the past?
Oh, I see. So you're asking if we look at like past allocations for a club when
Yeah,
we
kind of
are
like
considering the current
is
ones.
there like
Okay.
equitable allocations between like smaller groups that have less funding versus like larger organizations that already have a lot of funding? Like, do you look into their budgets, their prior budgets to
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
like does that come into the, I guess, like grading system?
Yeah, I think that's a big something that we keep in mind. I think just as we look at more applications throughout the year, we notice, okay, this club has been applying a lot for funding a lot. They've been getting a lot of funding. Maybe they don't need so much funding for this event because there's this newer club, maybe a smaller club that needs more funding to just, again, get off the ground and to make sure that their events happen and that they get the funding they need. And that's done by just, reading the application. We see that some clubs are newer, they'll mention it. And just, taking note of that and saying like, oh, hey, this club is newer. Let's help them out more or a bit more, just look more kindly on their application, give them a bit more grace than a club that's been applying multiple times per quarter.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was trying to get at. So thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry it took a while.
Perfect. Russell, whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1 minute closing statement.
Sure. So just I'd like to reiterate that just as the vice chair of finance committee, I would apply the knowledge that I learned last year, just getting more involved with the clubs on campus, learning more about how many clubs there are, just taking notice of clubs that are newer, just because I know clubs that have been around for a while, and just also making sure that students on UCLA know that there's funding available for them, that the people that provide the funding are also students willing to help them. We know just as students that um, if we were in their position, we would love to have support and just um, providing that support, being that listening ear, just getting involved with fellow students on campus and making sure that they know that there's funding available for them is something that I would push for this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're now going to hear ARC's recommendations.
Russell had an excellent interview with ARC.
Russell had an excellent interview with ARC, receiving a 3-0 vote. Having done an excellent job on the committee last year, ARC has no doubt that Russell will excel as FICOM's new vice chair. ARC is excited to see Russell accomplish his goals and working with New York clubs to help them with the application process to ensure funds can be distributed more equitably. ARC highly recommends Russell for this appointment.
Thank you so much. We're now going to move on to council member deliberations, and we don't usually do this, but in this case, I'm going to allow Bethany to give any comments as well. With that being said, does anyone have any comments or concerns with the applicant? Bethany.
Yeah, I would like to wholeheartedly recommend Russell as the new vice chair. This past year, he showed that he was excellent in the work that he did, as well as very knowledgeable in finance committee. And I think that he would do a great job as vice chair.
Thank you, Bethany. Do any council members have any other comments or concerns? Seeing none, could we please get a motion? Josh.
I move to appoint Russell Moe to the finance committee vice chair position.
I second that motion.
Josh motions, Chris Espino seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 13-0 vote, Russell is appointed as the FICOM vice chair. Thank you. We're now going to move on to 3 appointments for FICOM as members. Starting off, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Could you tell me how to pronounce your name?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
It's Varinch.
Varinch, perfect. Whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1-minute opening statements.
Hey everyone, my name is Varinch. I'm now a senior business economics student. I've been with FICOM for the last 2 years, and one of the things I really liked was that clubs have been some of the most formative experiences that I've had on campus, and have really shaped my campus experience. And so I've really enjoyed being able to make a difference and ensure that the clubs that have benefited to UCLA are able to continue to make changes, make UCLA better, connect students. And I hope that I'm able to bring my experience and background in finance, in financial analysis to FICOM and being able to use that as a tool. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to the 15-minute question and answer period by council members, starting off with Nico.
Hello. Could you elaborate on what the finance committee member, or what you believe the finance committee member role entails, and what their actions are within FICOM?
Yeah, so from my understanding, it's analyzing the funding requests that different clubs will send in, and then determining how we're going to allocate funding to them for each specific group based off the guidelines, and also other factors like whether their documentation is in order, etc. And just grading that along with other finance committee members, and then routing them through the process of receiving their funding once that's over.
Any other questions from council members? Nico.
Kind of similar to what I was asking Russell earlier, but when you're grading applications to the FICOM funding bodies, what what specific things are you looking for within the application? And also, how do you like look at past funding sources for smaller clubs versus larger clubs, sorry, to ensure that there's equity amongst your allocations?
Yeah, no, we definitely, or at least me personally, I'll definitely look into things such as like their experience, how many times they've been funded previously, what other funds have they applied for, and obviously the rationale for that is newer clubs who aren't as exposed to the process, maybe were just established or this is their first time asking for funding. They don't have the same access to information that some of these clubs that have been applying for 3, 4 times before have. So I think that's definitely a really important part of the process to make sure that we're kind of giving an even playing field to the different organizations that are asking for funding.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nico.
Okay. So it's my understanding that you've been with FICOM now for a few years. So my question for you is, could you maybe talk about something that you've seen in FICOM that maybe wasn't like the most efficient, or like is any problems you've seen in FICOM so far, and going into this year, if appointed, like what you think you can do to kind of fix those problems or improve efficiency amongst FICOM?
Now, one thing I've noticed historically, and I think we've been getting better at it, but there's still some work that needs to be done, is that from the perspective of someone who's familiar with the process, I think the entire funding process from the application to ultimately receiving the money, receiving the funding, can be, I think, underestimated in its complexity. So there have been a lot of funds who are going through the process for the first time who aren't able to kind of who don't know where to go, whether they go to the FICOM, whether they go to the student government and accounting office. So I think that entire process can be really confusing, and that more needs to be done on kind of making sure that newer clubs, especially people who aren't as exposed to the process, are able to navigate that efficiently. And so I think ideas such as maybe a newsletter that clubs can subscribe to in order to get consistent information on any changes or what the process is, and making that more clear when actually applying for funding as well.
Thank you. Any other questions from council members? Nico.
So I'm looking through your ARC notes, and I really appreciate how you talk about how you want to make sure the grading system is kind of more transparent. So I was hoping you can maybe elaborate more on how you plan to disclose how the grading system works. If in that, like, in doing so, would the grading system be available for students before they apply to any of the funding bodies, or would that be kind of like a retrospective after the application they see what their grades were?
I think what we have right now is that it's disclosed to applicants for funding that grades will be ranked per category. So for each funding category that they have from a 1 through 5 system and between 3 different council members. But what I was kind of getting at when I was talking about kind of making that more public, making that more transparent, is that I think funds should be able to see exactly what they need to do to improve on. So I think rather than just saying, this is how much funding you got, I think it would be more helpful to say, this is what you were scored under. Like these metrics were things you did good. These metrics were things you did bad. And I think that would actually we'd be able to see funds put up much better applications and give them a better chance of getting the funding they deserve.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1-minute closing statement.
I just wanted to say thanks again for the opportunity, for everyone being willing to interview me. Once again, I really enjoyed my job at FICOM, and would hope to be able to ensure that the opportunities that I've enjoyed on campus will continue to exist for future students. And I'd be happy if I'm able to do that for another year. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to hear ARC's recommendations.
Rinch had a very impressive interview with ARC, receiving a 3-0 vote. ARC was impressed with Rinch's experience on FICOM, having served in the committee for multiple years. ARC is additionally looking forward to seeing Varinj improve FICOM by increasing transparency to ensure that clubs who may not be aware of FICOM's resources may also submit an application. ARC highly recommends Varinj for this appointment.
Thank you, Josh. Do any council members have any comments or concerns? If none, could I please get a motion? Tamim.
I move to appoint Virenj Pandari as a FICOM member for the academic year 2024-2025.
I second that motion.
Tamim motions, Chris Espino seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With an 11-0 vote, that motion passes and Varench is appointed as a FICOM member. We're now going to move on to our second appointment for FICOM with Suhan. Hey, Suhan, whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1-minute opening statement.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Suan Tan. I'm a second-year data science and economics major here at UCLA, and I served on FICOM last year, and I'm really excited about the possible opportunity to serve again this year. Throughout the past year, I've been very involved on campus throughout various different organizations, such as being a manager for the Undergraduate Business Society, where I've been able to support event planning for one of the largest undergraduate organizations and really give back to the UCLA community by educating them more about the business community. And then professionally, I've also had an array of experiences working as a financial strategy project manager for a local nonprofit to help them with their financial strategy, and then also working with the biopharmaceuticals company to help improve their internal processes. So throughout these previous experiences, I've really understood more about finance and organizations and how to allow them to maximize their potential. So I believe that through the FICOM committee role, I would be able to promote diversity on campus and allow for other organizations to really gain the financial funding that they need to be successful with their missions. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to go on to the 15-minute question and answer period by council members. With that being said, do any council members have any questions? Nico.
Hello, could you talk about some of your past experiences in FICOM and how you plan to use those experiences to kind of better yourself in this role if you are appointed today?
Yes, definitely. So throughout the past year as a finance committee associate, I was working with other associates, vice chair, and head chair to conduct weekly grading for all the different applications that come in. And I was in charge of my specific grading section every single week to allocate funds. But one of the key things that I realized last year was I wanted to bring greater transparency to a lot of the metrics within our grading system. So for example, like how many times clubs apply for, the amount of funding that's being used every week, the average amount of funding, et cetera, a lot of these metrics that may not be so clear right off the bat. So if I were to be appointed to the finance committee associate position again, I do want to bring more transparency to these metrics by developing like an internal dashboard for us to be using so that we can see the metrics in a much easier fashion.
Any other questions from council members? Nico.
Hello again. When you talk about transparency, as you just did, is that transparency amongst the different finance committee members, or would these metrics be published for the student body to see as well?
For now, I would keep it within the finance committee just to get it started off to ensure, because the metrics, we still need to develop them and there's like a testing phase, and I don't want these metrics to go out right away. So I would keep it within the finance committee first, just so we can ensure that these metrics promote the most accurate numbers possible, and then eventually allow these metrics to be shown to greater stakeholders, like perhaps parts of the student body or even other parts of council as well. But it would be mainly used for finance committee to help us with our allocations and support our internal process to be more efficient and provide a more equitable distribution for organizations.
Any other questions from council members? Seeing none, we are now going to move on to your 1-minute closing statement. Please proceed whenever you're ready.
Yeah, of course. I just want to thank you everyone again for listening to me during this interview tonight. Just want to reiterate my previous experience this past year with FICOM working as associate, and I'm really excited for the possibilities for the possibility to join again this year and bring greater transparency to a lot of different financial metrics to really power the UCLA undergraduate population with all the different organizations that we have on campus. I understand that it's like a really important role for the well-being of all the student groups and organizations on campus with FICOM's role. And if I am appointed to the position, it would be my honor to really make sure that financial allocations are equitable and fairly distributed for the greater UCLA community. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. We're now going to hear ARC's recommendations.
Sohan had an excellent interview with ARC, receiving a 3-0 vote. ARC was excited to see Sohan's creative goals and implementing a dashboard so FICOM can better keep track of their budget throughout the year. Having served on the committee previously, ARC has no doubt that Sohan will do well in the position again, and we recommend Sohan for this appointment.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to council member deliberations. With that being said, do any council members have any questions, any comments or concerns? Seeing none, could I please get a motion to appoint?
I move to appoint Suhan Tan to the Finance Committee as a member.
Second that motion.
Have your motions. Chris Espino seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 10-0 vote, that motion passes and Suhan is appointed to FICOM.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. We're now going to move on to our third FICOM appointment of the night with Shireen. Whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1-minute opening statements.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shireen Dunker. I am a third-year MCDB major, and I use she, her pronouns. I've been on the finance committee for 2 years now and have gained the technical experience that is needed for this position. While developing these technical skills in FICOM, I have also sought out to develop my skills as a leader and as a communicator through my involvement in other organizations on campus here at UCLA. I value teamwork and collaboration, a key component for both within FICOM and outside, as we're supposed to be supporting organizations in their application process, not only grading them. As a very goal-oriented person, I will share with you my 2 goals for this upcoming year: transparency and equity. I have ideas on how we can improve our outreach to all student organizations, especially focusing on marginalized communities. And I can't wait to share more about that with you guys.
Thank you, Shireen. We're now going to move on to the 15-minute question and answer period by council members. With that being said, do any council members have any questions? Josh.
Hi, can you please describe the changes that were made to the FICOM funding guidelines for this year? And can you please elaborate that with those changes, how we ensure that funds are being distributed equitably to student organizations?
Yes, so as I'm aware, it's been over summer break, but the newest addition to the FICOM guidelines is that a student organization can only apply up to 4 times a quarter. This recent addition was to, give other student organizations an opportunity to apply and, spread our funding across all their organizations on campus. And through capping the number, sometimes you can apply, we're increasing our focus on creating equity within the funding that we're spreading out to everyone. But yeah, that is the main change that they made.
Thank you. Nico?
Yeah, could you elaborate more on your ideas for transparency for this year?
Of course. I believe transparency is key to building trust within the student body and ensuring that our funds are used responsibly. To promote transparency, I would advocate for making financial reports and budget allocations easily accessible online and breaking them down in a way that's understandable for students. I understand as a general member, this is not something that can happen as quick as possible. It's something that takes time and it takes initiative to see this through over a year, maybe a couple of years if this happens. Additionally, I would push for regular public updates on the status of our funds and how our decisions are made and how these financial requests are evaluated. Hosting, open quorums or, having these Q&A sessions in our office hours where students can ask questions or even raise concerns, but also make our process more interactive and more clear to everyone and just in general by being proactive about communication and ensuring that all our financial decisions are clearly explained, we can create a more transparent FICOM.
Thank you. Do any other council members have questions? Nico.
If appointed, this would be your third year in FICOM. So could you talk about some of the experiences you've had in the past 2 years in FICOM and any like special projects or anything that you've done to kind of improve FICOM or make it more efficient or just like any improvements you've brought forward?
Yeah, so in this past year, it kind of switched from after my first year of being on FICOM, something that I can help out new members. And I think I took on an active role of helping out our new members and explaining how grading would work and how we should collaborate as a team and such like that. Increasing our teamwork is very important to me because I think it's important to have all our opinions and all our values known as a group. Since we are all individually grading, it's important that we're all aware of how everyone's opinions and everyone's values of funding is spread out. And in this upcoming year, off a little tangent, I worked a lot with the UCLA alumni and their EDI initiatives and took an intensive training upon that. And I think that's something I really want to implement in FICOM this year because I learned a lot about different biases that come into when you're hiring someone for a job or in our case grading funding applications. And so being aware of our own personal biases, whether that's my own communities, my own ethnicity, and such like that is something that I need to put aside. And I think that that's something that could be really beneficial to the entire committee as a whole this upcoming year. So that's something I'm really looking forward to raise hopefully in this next year.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council members? Oh, sorry, Mona.
Okay, first, thank you so much for coming. I wanted to kind of raise a question that we asked a little bit in the ARC interview and take it a little bit further. In the ARC interview, we asked a little bit about FICOM's role and responsibility when it comes to directly assisting and working with students and student organizations, as well as the specific topic of office hours. What can you do this year? So my question for you is, what can you and FICOM as a whole do this year to be more accountable to the student body?
That's a great question. And I apologize if my environment is a little bit loud. But this year's office hours, one of my new ideas is to make our office hours more transformative in their purpose to include more of a workshop-based kind of approach, offering one-on-one consultations or working as a group to help ensure that all groups, regardless of their background or size of their organizations, have an equal opportunity to secure funding. This could be seen as something that we're helping them build their application up, not as much so on our grading side in which we're judging and determining their funding. We really want to offer that kind of support to the organizations that don't exactly know what they're going through when they submit the Google form. So having that kind of preemptive support and workshop like office hour is, I think, something that we can really improve upon this year. And this approach will foster a more inclusive and supportive environment for all student organizations.
Any other questions from council members? Seeing none, Shireen, whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you so much for everyone's time here today. I know it's a late night for everyone, but as I mentioned, this would be my third year on FICOM, and through my experience, I have remained dedicated and diligent in my work. The team over the past 2 years can attest to this, and I look forward to implementing my new ideas, some of which I've shared tonight, for this upcoming year. Through increasing our focus on EDI initiatives, we will strengthen our role on campus in both supporting and uplifting all student organizations. And again, just thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Shireen. We're now going to hear ARC's recommendations.
During Shireen's ARC interview, Shireen demonstrated that she was highly experienced in this committee, having served in the committee for multiple years. However, ARC had some concerns with Shireen's ARC interview due to a lack of familiarity with the updated FICOM guidelines, as well as a lack of specific ideas on how to better serve non-traditional marginalized communities on campus. As a result, this applicant received 1 yes vote and 2 no votes from ARC.
We are now going to move on to council member deliberations. I didn't want to comment on the concern about the updated FICOM procedures. I think Yuri asked the question now, and I would say Shireen answered it pretty well, at least to the extent of my knowledge about FICOM. But does anyone else have any other questions or concerns or comments? Sorry, not questions. Josh.
Hi, Sharon. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I just wanted to say I was the person that voted yes in your ARC interview, and I will also be voting again, yes, again tonight. I did share some of the concerns that my fellow ARC members had, but I think, like Adam was saying, you readdressed that new funding guideline question quite well tonight, and I thought your council interview was a lot better than your ARC interview tonight as well. Also, I just wanted to defer to Bethany's opinion too. I think 2 years of experience at the committee can speak more than a 30-minute interview with ARC as well.
Bethany, do you have any? Go ahead, Bethany.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'd also like to talk to the experience I've had with Shireen on committee for the past 2 years. She's been very diligent with grading, and I know that the new initiatives were something that was very recent, and especially with the unprecedented head chair switch up, Lucy didn't actually have a chance to verse everyone on the new policies before I got switched to head chair, and so I think that maybe that was some of the reasons why it was a bit more difficult to talk on that. But yeah, I definitely think that Shirin is someone who is reliable in terms of grading and making sure that allocations are equitably allocated. And so I would recommend her for a position again this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Bethany. Do any other council members have comments or concerns? Mona.
Hi, Shane. Thank you so much for coming. Tonight, I was one of the council members who voted no in the ARC interview for some of the reasons Josh mentioned. For me, accountability to the student body when it comes to the roles and responsibilities, when it comes to directly interacting with students from student organizations, is really an important area for me, especially because as has come up in a lot of the interviews regarding FICOM tonight. We've talked about how some student organizations might have that institutional knowledge of how the FICOM process and applications work, while some may not, because of whether it's the length of time they've been active, their knowledge of like the process and so on and so forth. And while the concerns regarding the funding guidelines and so on were definitely addressed, and it's super clear that your experience does make you a great fit in that regard, I'm not yet 100% sure that that area, which is so important for me when it comes to like that interaction with the student body, has been fully addressed. For that reason, I'll be keeping my vote a note for tonight, but it was great to hear your interview today and to get to know you further in the ARC interview as well. Thank you.
Any other comments or concerns? If none, could we please get a motion? Robbie.
Motion to appoint Shireen Dunker to the Finance Committee.
I second the motion.
Robbie motions, Chris Espino seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 8-4-0 vote, that motion passes and Shireen is appointed to the Finance Committee as a member. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, guys.
We're now going to move on to appointment F with the Academic Senate Committee on Undergrad Admission and Relations with School. We have Catherine. Yay, I love in person. Hey, Catherine.
Hi.
You know how this goes. Whenever you're ready, go ahead with your 1-minute opening statement.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Catherine Can. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a third year majoring in philosophy with a minor in accounting. I'm applying for a position on the Committee on Undergraduate Admissions and Relations with Schools. I believe I would be an excellent fit for this role due to my unique combination of experiences and skills that I believe align with CORS's mission. Through my role at Bruin Necessities, SWC, and IVP, I've been at the forefront of addressing students' essential needs. Sorry. Um, Essential needs, giving me insights into the diverse challenges that can impact academic success. Additionally, working at the UCLA Financial Wellness Office has given me a nuanced understanding of how financial considerations can interact with admissions policies. These experiences have equipped me with a holistic understanding of students' needs and potential barriers to access. I'm particularly passionate about enhancing outreach efforts to maintain a diverse and talented student body, and I'm eager to bring my perspective to help CORS ensure fair and forward-thinking admissions policy.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to the 15-minute question and answer period by council members, starting with Tamim.
I just want to ask, how would you work to improve UCLA's relationship with local schools?
Yeah, a big thing that I wanted to expand on is more personalized outreach efforts, which I've had experience with in the past. I think definitely a big part of that is partnering with local community advisors and also community organizations. I think that really gives it shows personalized effort when outreaching to students in those communities, and also just continuing to ensure like digitalized outreach. And I think that really shows effort on UCLA's side.
Thank you. Chris Espino.
You're lucky I'm exhausted, which means I'm asking you one question tonight. What is your understanding of the Academic Senate?
I know that it is kind of a legislative body that oversees 23 committees, and they're run by faculty, and some of them have undergraduate students, and they kind of just oversee different aspects of UCLA.
Any other questions from council members? Seeing none, Catherine, we're going to go on to your 1-minute closing statement. Please proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much for considering my application and for this opportunity to discuss my contribution to CORS. I'd like to emphasize that beyond my academic and leadership roles, I have a strong personal commitment to community service and advocacy. I believe this perspective is crucial when considering admissions policies, as it underscores the importance of evaluating applicants holistically, not just for their academic achievements, but also for their resilience, potential to contribute to UCLA, and ability to thrive here. My experiences have instilled in me a strong belief in the power of inclusive and equitable access, and I've seen how diverse perspectives and backgrounds can enrich our campus community, and this motivates me to continue working to creating pathways that allow a wide range of students to flourish here. I'm ready to dedicate my energy and unique perspective to this important work, and thank you again for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much, Catherine. We are now going to hear ARC's recommendations.
Catherine presented an excellent interview with ARC, receiving a 3-0 vote. During her ARC interview, Catherine demonstrated strong interest in research, which she plans to use to create more equitable and holistic admission processes. ARC was also excited to see some of Catherine's goals in making admissions processes more transparent, especially to the transfer community. ARC highly recommends Catherine for this appointment.
Thank you, Josh. We're now going to move on to council member deliberations, starting with Kiara.
Is it working? Okay. Hi, Kat. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here tonight. As she mentioned, she has been within my office and as far as especially Bruin Necessities, and I just want to recommend to you all her for this position, as I've gotten to see her like work ethic and passion for students' needs on campus, and she's going to work on our like gift card program for Bruin Necessities this year, which I'm so excited to see all she's done. And so I've gotten to see how much she cares about students' needs, and her in her passion and interest to really engage with students, and which she said like through the research that Josh mentioned and other ways. So I recommend her for this role. And since I haven't worked with her within SWC, I will be abstaining tonight, but I wanted to mention that.
Chris Espino.
I just wanted to mention that I read all of ARC's interviews with respect to your application, and very, very impressive application. 3-0. So if appointed, welcome to the commission, to the Academic Affairs Commission.
Any other comments or concerns? Seeing none, could we please get a motion? Yes, Chris Espino.
I motion to appoint, 1 second, please. Catherine Can to the Academic Senate, specifically the Committee on Undergraduate Admission and Relations with Schools for the 2024-2025 school year.
I second.
Chris Espino motions, Kiara seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 12-0 to 1 vote, that motion passes and Catherine is appointed to the Academic Senate. We're now going to move on to our final appointment, which is a consent item for the new appointment we have, which is the Data Governance Committee. Since this is a consent item, we're not going to vote. Are there any objections to this appointment? Perfect. Thank you all so much. We're now going to move on to officer reports, starting off with myself. I'm going to start off by announcing that I'm appointing myself to one of our appointments, which is the Group Conduct Board. Just wanted to let you all know. I did all my meetings. They're all there. I met with Vice Chancellor Monroe this past Thursday. We discussed a lot of things, most notably expanding AAP to international students, CAE issues, and then Chancellor Link program. USAC meeting, follow up. We finished our allocations and the offices are cleaned up for the most part. I had our director meeting. We closed our staff applications, starting our interviews and hiring this week. I was in Berkeley this past weekend doing a lot of stuff. I met with the Berkeley, their equivalent of USAC's president and EVP. We discussed a lot of UC-wide issues and some future projects. I signed like hundreds of recs, reviewed appointments, and I observed a lot of campus safety procedures yesterday at different events and protests. And I'm going to be following up on those observations. That's it for me. Pretty slow week. Josh.
ARC had 8 interviews this cycle. Thank you so much, Mona and Diego, as usual. I've also been working with the FICOM chair to get their appointments finalized. Met with SCBC's assistant commissioner and then Overdose to discuss collaborating with Greek Life to implement mandatory Narcan administration trainings. Working with my student relations committee to organize the first congressional advisory board meeting. So far, we have 11 organizations on board, hoping to get a couple more within the next couple weeks. Met with ABC CEPI and my administrative liaison director to start establishing more connections between IBP and student affairs. We discussed issues such as safety on the Hill, CAE accommodations, and care office funding. Also met with my CSA vice chair. We just launched our RSVP post for our first town hall to discuss ongoing concerns with UCLA's time, place, and manner policies on October 18th at 4 p.m. It'll be via Zoom. Please sign up and get people from your office to go if you're interested in attending. We would love to have you there for public comment as well as to ask questions. Had our second all-staff meeting. Committees are beginning to share committee updates during meetings to increase transparency. My events committee is planning a midterm Trust Week for the end of October. Stay tuned for some updates for that. And we're also collaborating with the Makerspace on a t-shirt making event on October 25th. We'll be giving out free t-shirts and designs. Had a new student organization workshop with the TSR, which was super fun. Also upload our previous workshops to our Instagram. And then our community integration program with TSR, we extended the application deadline and we'll be tabling for that at the Latinx Welcome event next week. And my transparency directors will be coming to each USAC meeting from now on to continue uploading our regular USAC meetings updates onto the IBP Instagram. One of them is here tonight. Actually, Aisha is here with us.
Javier.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm like kind of tired. But I did want to start off by just saying, because it's the day after, the EVP office stands unequivocally with the people of Palestine, as yesterday marked 1 full year at the beginning of Israel's terrorist genocidal campaign. Death toll has far surpassed 100,000 innocent lives and has continued to be American-led and American-funded aggression that has seeped into neighboring nations in the region. The EVP office also stands with the collective struggle of all oppressed peoples of the world, but especially those affected currently in Lebanon, Syria, and Iran. As students of the UC and inhabitants of the United States, we directly benefit from the greed and carnage of the West against the global South and their descendants. And regardless of whether you acknowledge this or not, the advocacy of the people and of the EVP office will forever be aligned with the struggle for Palestinian liberation and the hope for a quick return to their native homeland without fear of occupation from the Zionist entity. As a council, I hope we never forget why we were elected and continue to fight against the UC so long as they continue to invest in the weapons industry and other manufacturers of harm that plague our communities. May we see a liberated Palestine in our lifetime. I would also like to acknowledge and celebrate International Lesbian Day. Very abrupt tone shift. Bless the universe for them and let's go lesbians. Okay. Announcements. Cool. Tomorrow there's going to be a statewide action for AFSCME, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, for new and improved contracts with the UC. UCLA's main action is going to be happening outside the Luskin Hotel from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. EVP will be there. If y'all are interested in being there and need directions or guidance, talk to me. Check out other campus rally locations and times on the Ask Me 3299 Instagram that I put down there, and I will link after. I don't know why it's not linked right now. If you know any organizations interested in participating in our Party to the Polls event for Election Day, please reach out. We are currently doing outreach. And we would very much appreciate y'all joining in on this very fun event that my civic team is planning. Find an opportunity to apply for appointed officer positions through the UC Students Association. Y'all have heard it. The application is in my officer report. Yeah. In terms of the rest of my report and everything, my main thing was just, really organizing with my executive team to discuss things like our officer retreat later this month, development plans for all of our internal, external operational teams, discussion of our social media plan for not just election season, but also involvement with the UCSA campaigns, September Regions recap, etc. Also revisiting our strategic plan for outreach to the mother organizations regarding community building events, advocacy to our external partners like admin and our government, as well as an upcoming financial aid town hall with elected representatives. Cool, lovely. Um, jumping around, there was also a board directors meeting for the UC Students Association where we talked about a lot of things. Main things, continue statewide advocacy with the Undocumented Student Network regarding real ID changes that are set to come for May 2025. There is public comment open for this. I will include that after this. Also just, trainings regarding Proposition 6 and 36, California ballot measures that will be voted on during this election that relate to imprisonment, and also, policing. Look out for a educational event and series of posts regarding that. Um, we are continuing our outreach to our mother organizations, having met with the Pacific Island Student Association just this past week. And we're also holding our first fellowship meeting for the fall quarter after having received a record 54 applicants. Amazing, lovely. Um, and last but not least, tabled at the Labor Studies Open House to promote student lobby corps and labor advocacy on and off campus. And yeah, the rest of it, y'all can read on my officer report because I am tired. Thank you.
Thank you, Javi. Next, we have Diego.
Hi, everyone. For time, please refer to the General Representative 1 officer reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Gen Rep 2.
All updates are outlined in the Gen Rep 2 officer report.
Thank you. Chris Ramsey.
Everyone, I do have one big announcement, which is that we are doing, like through my office, reach outs to a lot of different classes. This is largely to advertise the Bruin Buddies program, but I will also be mentioning Gen Rep 3 office positions. And so if you guys have any positions that you have in your offices and you want to promote them right now, you're trying to get applicants, please let me know as soon as possible. I think if you could text that to me by like tonight or tomorrow night, that'd be great. And that way I can include them, and then you guys can get like just more applicants. Thank you. Everything else is on my office report.
Thank you. Chris Espino.
One quick thing. By the end of this week, students have to opt out of the Bruin One Access. If you haven't already, please make sure to do so. To all of those listening, please make sure to opt out, or else you will be charged a $129 fee. My office did make a post about this, so if your offices can repost it, that'd be great. By the end of this week, that charge will be made. So let's get the information out there so that students don't have that fee unnecessarily. And for the rest, refer to my report.
Just to confirm, Chris, students should opt out if the total value of their books is less than $130.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Robbie.
You could just refer to my written report for today.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Okay, hi, can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay. Well, obviously. So, I'll keep it pretty quick, but I just wanted to say that I'm appointing myself to SHREC this year, which is the Student Risk Education Committee. I met with CPO and the other reps about this and kind of just learned about SHREC, its purpose, and the work that I'll be participating in, largely with like insurance, fingerprinting, driver safety training, youth safety training, things like that. We also hosted two of our biggest events of the year last week, Surboxy Fest and Volunteer Day. So thank you to everyone who came out and supported that, as well as just everyone who shared information about that. We had over 2,000 people participating in both of these events, which is really exciting. Next week we have a voting event that's happening, more details to come. And we also have our first Youth Empowerment Coalition meeting, which is basically a space where different student organizations can come together, collaborate, share resources and curriculum, and work through common issues. So if you know any orgs that are in that space, let me know. It's happening tomorrow at 5 p.m. But that's it for me. Everything else is in my written report.
Thank you, Carolyn. Next we have Alicia.
Hello, everyone. I would like to do verbal officer report. I'll keep it as brief as I can, but in the past week, I met with my sole advisor Pam regarding all my fall events, including also some of my future events with Hip Hop Congress and Jazz Reggae Fest. In terms of changing venue spaces. I've been communicating with the AACCLA Event Services on said events, and I also met with AACCLA events managers this morning. My sole advisor, Pamela Lewis, the director, and my personal staff administrative coordinator in terms of discussing changes to the Kirchhoff Art Gallery policy changes, which I'll talk about soon. Um, I had my director's retreat this past weekend and was really successful. We received over 200 applications for CAC this year. So all my directors are working on interviewing everyone before Friday at 8 p.m. because our all staff retreat is this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and I'm getting those waivers signed beforehand. We had a Word on Wednesday last week, which was a journaling night, and it was a success. We have another Word on Wednesday tomorrow. Just as a reminder, Word on Wednesday is a spoken word lounge every week on Wednesday. So stop by in your evenings. Tomorrow we also have a jazz concert in the Kirchhoff Coffee House from 5 to 6 p.m. before Word on Wednesday. So please feel free to stop by and study and listen if you'd like. We are also setting up the Art Community Fund to be marketed before the deadline coming up in the middle of the quarter. And I'm also meeting with the ASA president this week to discuss our Native Expressions event collaboration. I'm also, after that meeting, I'll also be following up with PISA and GEO to invite for collaboration. Our art series this week will post a call to artists for Latinx and Filipinx Heritage Month Gallery that will be occurring next week. So when that post is up, please share with your Filipino and Filipinx and Latinx friends to submit their art. Um, we have obviously Word on Wednesday weekly this quarter, and some of the themes covered will be Dia de los Muertos, elections, a spoken word night to talk about encampment bans and mask bans, also elections, um, Native Expressions event, and a healing and blackout poetry night. We're also working on our diversity tour to Little Ethiopia, so I'm meeting with the East African Student Association president in the coming week to figure the details out for that. We confirmed a lot of bookings for Hip Hop Appreciation Month with Hip Hop Congress for winter quarter. We're working on booking Carnicel Commons for CAC's 60th anniversary reunion in May. We set deadlines for JRF Festival prep, including like having logos finalized, artists finalized, etc. I ordered journals for the Word on Wednesday, so if you stop by Word, we'll have some journals available throughout the quarter until supplies last. We're working on a gallery with Students for Justice in Palestine as well, which ties into, we published a statement on Palestine yesterday for recognition of what has been happening in the past year and 76 years as a whole. JRF and Hip Hop Congress are working on a house show with local to host local LA rappers, and we're working with Party in My Living Room, which is an initiative founded in South LA to platform specifically Black and Brown artists. We're also outreaching to ideas this week to see in what way CAC can support the Opportunity for All movement and other programs to support undocumented students. We're also working with WME on an event and networking with CAC alumni on providing opportunities for the music industry for CAC staff and for students. And then we also communicated to previous ARC applicants on how our guidelines will be, how the guidelines changed and how our timeline changed and how we're really focusing in on culture and art and activism for what we're looking for in applications. And that's pretty much it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Adicia. Next, we have Alex.
Hi, everyone. The rest I'll refer to in my written report, but just a couple updates. We've made a lot of progress on OSAC, so more information will be coming out about that soon. We also closed our general staff application and had our first project director meeting last week. This week we have our first all-staff meeting, and then we're also planning a retreat for fall and winter as well.
Thank you, Alex. Next, we have Nico.
For FSC updates, you can check the written report, but for budget review committee, as a reminder, I'm like signed in for the email that would be the appointment for that. And we have the USA/BOD like guidelines and application finalized, but we're just waiting on IT to publish it to my.ucla. But a lot of student orgs are reaching out to that email, like questioning where it is. So if anyone asks you, or if you know any orgs that want to apply, it will be there. It's just up to IT now.
Thank you, Nico. Next, we have Kiara.
Oh wait, there it is. Hi everyone. So for my updates, a lot of it you can refer to my written report, but a few things I wanted to highlight. Let's see. Yeah, planning to meet with CAPS and RISE to support their community suicide safe trainings that will be coming up available to students on campus. And then met with our peer support lounge coordinator to plan a welcome week. If you aren't aware, our office doubles as the peer support lounge, which is open to students throughout the week. That has like safe sex menstrual products, free fentanyl test strips, snacks, water, other like informational resources. So we're also working on collaborating with Mona TSR to plan like a transfer day there. And then also our programming fund is live. So I put the application and guidelines there. And then, yeah, my assistant commissioner is working with IVP and overdose to secure fentanyl test strips for the year in the lounge and Narcan trainings. And then, let's see. Oh, our Brew Necessities quarterly gift card program application is live, which is super exciting. So this program is quarterly, so there's a new application every quarter. The application is right there. And for those who do not know, the gift card can be used to purchase basic needs products in the UCLA store, and there are specified aisles there, but these include various like basic needs such as soap, toilet paper and wipes, period products, detergent, body wash, shampoo, conditioner, razors, deodorant, and more. So that is currently available and open to students. I listed some of the updates that our committees are currently working on campus. And then our internship applications are live. The applications close tomorrow. And then I'm going to continue to boost Health Coming, which is coming up next week, next Wednesday in Wilson Plaza on the 16th. And I believe that is all my updates. The other thing is our Diversus WC team is working on committee workshops based on identity-based health advocacy within our team, and then outreach to campus mother organizations this week.
Thank you, Kiara. Mona.
Thank you. For the majority of my officer report, you can refer to the document itself. But a really quick small note about one of the things I did this week is attend the STC for All Coalition reception, which was really insightful. Not only was it like a great opportunity to network with various community members who are engaged in this coalition, but also learned a little bit about like project updates and like coalition status updates. And essentially, I believe one of the notes they brought up about how we can continue to mobilize is essentially, even if we've already sent a sign-on letter, is to continue to follow up and continue to engage the community we represent and essentially continue to mobilize for the options that would be the most beneficial for our community here at UCLA. So just wanted to really quickly make a note of that in case anyone missed the reception or wasn't able to attend. And then also just wanted to give a quick appreciation to the council members who've noted the struggle of oppressed people globally tonight. I think that's a very important issue that we should always consider and really highlight when it comes to the work we do as a council. But everything else can be seen in my officer report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. And last but not least, we have Tamim.
Hello. So Global Bites is happening. We already submitted the recipes to UCLA Housing for the winter quarter. Some of the organizations which we are going to be working with is Middle Eastern Student Association, the Nigerian Student Association, the Lebanese Student Association, and the Thai Student Association. We also have some individual submissions. So dining is gonna rock next quarter. So yeah, those who need swipes can ask me for swipes. I can swipe you in. Uh, then we have an event on November 19th, which is Bruins Around the World. And that will be during the time of the USAC meeting. So I won't be here, but we are working on that. And everything else you can refer to my written officer report.
Thank you, Tamim. Moving on to admin reps. Orlando isn't here. Is Orlando online? Oh, hey, Orlando.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Sorry. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. How y'all doing tonight? I have a few updates. This year, typically every year, the student region, actually, let me back up a little bit. I am in charge of recruitment for the student region position. And typically every school year, the region comes to our campus to give a presentation. Typically that happens the end of January, beginning of February. This year, it's going to happen in December. They have reached out to me. So I will be organizing this. I'll be reaching out to the EVP office to help me if they're interested in coordinating a kind of a joint effort on helping getting the word out. But more information on that will be coming. Re-registration. After last week, I went to Seoul and we had a longer conversation about constitutions. I've already spoken to a couple of you already, and your constitutions, don't worry about that for your re-registration. Only watch the video. Don't worry about updating it with special language or anything like that. Just keep what you have on file, and we can move forward and also watch the video. Which brings me to the last update. Next week is Day of Soul. These are workshops that we provide not only new organizations, but returning organizations, both online and in person. If you're interested in some of them, please take a look on our website. Every day it is being updated with new information, but we have a range of different workshops. Some will be mandatory, and some will just maybe be some that you may be interested in participating in. But that is all I have. Thank you.
Orlando, a couple of questions. Is the student region presentation going to be only Josiah, or is Sonia also going to be here?
That is still to be determined, but Sonia is the one that contacted me. So it may only be Sonia that does the presentation.
Okay, okay.
And so I'll be organizing, and thanks for asking that, because in addition to the info session, I also be organizing small group meetings, and one of them will be with the USAC. So I also need some coordination there as well. But yes.
Perfect. Also, I sent you a Slack if you could take a look at that. Sorry. He's on our Slack. Oh, okay. I'll email you tomorrow then.
Okay. Any other questions?
Chris Espino has a question for you as well.
Yeah, hi Orlando. We miss you. Quick question. Once we receive the like an email saying application was submitted, that's it, right? Once we receive the
No, once
confirmation.
you've submitted to us, another email will be sent back to the 3 signatories asking them to accept the signatory role. That along with watching the workshop, the 15-minute workshop.
So after we watch the 15-minute workshop, that's it?
Yes.
There's no like test or anything?
Oh, yeah, well, there's a quiz that just kind of tests you. Just do the best you can. It won't count against you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you, Orlando. We're now gonna move on to Jessica.
Hello, all. I am back. I was out pretty much all last week, so if I owe you something, please bump it for me. The one quick announcement that I wanted to make is just a reminder for our program coming this Friday. That's part of our Voice Initiative grant funding. So it's going to be Friday from 11:30 to 2 p.m. in Kirkhoff Grand Salon, and it's it's part of our three-part series about voting and participating in elections and whatnot. And so part 2 is all about the media and how to like determine reputable media sources and where to get your information from to inform yourself as you go to into the election season this November and cast your vote. So just wanted to remind everybody and invite you to attend. There will be refreshments. And again, that's 11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the Kirkhoff Grand Salon on Friday.
Thank you, Jessica. Next we have Lori.
The only update I have is by the end of next week, we will be running your eligibility check for the quarter. So if you think you have an issue, get to us before, sooner rather than later, so we can help you navigate. That's all.
Thank you, Lori and Jonathan.
Hey, hi, hello. Happy Tuesday. To remind you of what those eligibility requirements are, you're required to have a 2.0 GPA cumulative, and you are required to be enrolled in 4 units in residence, which means you take them on this campus. If you have pending disciplinary action, we will also be seeing that. So it is good for you to let us know that sooner rather than later, in case that does affect your enrollment status.
What constitutes a pending disciplinary action?
I'm gonna leave that up to your own personal discretion. um, Want to encourage you all, another great night for appointments, but do want to just encourage you to keep up with it, particularly on those academic senate and funding body ones. I know though most of those honestly have a cutoff that if you don't appoint them within the next week or so, honestly, you're going to lose that appointment entirely. You won't be able to fill it later. So particularly on those 2 sets and all, but keep up the good work there and push through. I know it's not summer anymore and you want to be done with them, but yeah, we do too. But but we're getting there. For the attendance sheet, a reminder to please, when you get the attendance sheet for the first time, to not sign twice. Per your bylaws, you're required to sign at the start and at the end. So it kind of defeats the purpose. So please only sign once. Sorry. Hiring, if you're hiring staff and you have not sent over your list, hiring stipend hiring, that is, you have money currently to provide stipends, and you have not sent over your list of directors, please do so to me ASAP so we can get them hired ASAP. Thank you to folks who have asked for and completed their waivers. Shout out SWC, CAC, CSC, now CEC also. If you are going off campus, you need waivers. And this isn't just like a little fun little rule extra step. This is truly to protect you all. We have had instances in the past where people get hurt and parents and other entities want to sue, and you could be legally liable as the signatory of your organization, and so could ASUCLA. So they're very important. Please, anytime you're going off campus for an activity, submit that request form. It's pinned in our general Slack channel. If you have a idea on a better place for me to put that, that is accessible to you all, because it's only relevant for you all, please let me know, and I'm happy to put it there as well. Not last. I'm out of office on Monday, because we don't have Indigenous Peoples Day off. I don't really understand that. Yeah. But I will not be here Monday. So if you need anything SGS wise, please go to Jessica. Otherwise, I will be back on Tuesday. And then last but not least, Student Affairs has pulled together an admin mixer for you all coming up at the end of this month. So if you were on council last year, or you know people on council last year, you may recall we did it in the spring where we had different administrators from different campus departments and senior leadership come by and connect with you all over some light refreshments. We will be doing that yet again now in fall. I will send out an official invite once it's finalized, hopefully tomorrow. But it is on October 31st from 4 to 5 p.m., most likely in the LATC clubhouse. This was the time that interim Chancellor Hunt is available, so he will be there. So your interim chancellor will be joining, as well as will other administrators. So keep an eye out for that. And if you need me, you know where to find me.
Okay. We are now going to move on to old business, starting with Javi's bylaw change. Unless there's anything specifically you want to note, since we already went over it, you can just vote whatever you want.
Please just vote.
I
Sorry, yeah.
I vote to approve the EVP bylaw change to Article 4, Section D6.
90 seconds.
I'll second.
Thanks.
Alicia motion. Alicia, oh, you're voting already. Whoops. Alicia motion, Robbie seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 12-0 to 1 vote, that motion passes and the bylaw is changed. New business. We're going to start off with Alicia's discussion about the art gallery. Alicia, if you want to give some background as to what happened, go ahead.
Yeah. Josh, can I get sharing share screen? Thank you. Okay. Basically, as I mentioned in my officer report, I had a conversation this morning with multiple ASUCLA events managers, including Marissa, who has worked at ASUCLA for a long time, my sole advisor, Pam, who has advised CAC for forever, and the new student union director, Pamela, and my administrative coordinator, who was in charge of managing the bookings at the art gallery previously, and Jessica, and then I think that was it, and then Mary potentially. But anyways, so it was a conversation between CAC and ASUCLA about the art gallery, and for as long as I can remember, um, which is not, I think it's like potentially minimum of a decade of CAC being involved in the reservation of the art gallery, um, because it was a work in conjunction between ACCLA and CAC, the students, to have a say in how it is used, because it is the only art space on our entire campus that can be reserved by students and by the public as well. Um, it is the only place. I want to reiterate, like the art school doesn't allow it. Um, and yeah, like we at CAC are always at home in the Kirkgrove Art Gallery. We host the Word on Wednesday there, our art galleries there, and many other like programs of ours, including like World Fest events and Hip Hop Congress events, um, etc. And Basically what the process would be is that student orgs and anyone else interested in booking the art gallery, they would have to request to CAC to book it, because we would ensure that it would be used for artistic purposes, and not for meeting purposes or um, you know, that other purposes that are not aligned to art. Sorry, it's late, so I can't think of other examples. Um, and yeah, and so this was, the understanding for a while. And once CAC would approve that, hey, this organization is wanting to do something related to art, or is wanting to host like a gallery or a art workshop or something related to art and culture, um, that we'd refer them to we would refer that approval to ASUCLA Event Services. But today that changed because um, ASUCLA, instead of having us be involved in that process, they are just going to prioritize like our booking of the space, like a quarter in advance. So it's gonna work like Bruin Plaza now, where like people and orgs can just, you know, request a date to book it. So that sanctity and integrity might not be upheld. And I think it's just what it is. Like ASUCA does function like through a capitalist system. Of course, they're going to want to make revenue of booking spaces for the sake of making money, and that's my opinion as a student who goes here, and as a student who used to have a say, in how a space on campus was used, especially a student-led space. Um, so yeah, as it's stated here, these were the old like policies. Um, a lot of this are in conjunction with ASUCLA policies like booking 4 weeks prior and only ASUCLA catering, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but yeah, now the new policies, I asked ACCA to send them to me, but they haven't sent them to me, so I'll attach those in next week's agenda and show them to y'all. But if any orgs, including your offices here, want to book the art gallery, let me know so I can forward those priority bookings to ACCLA before the quarter starts next winter quarter, or if you have any this quarter that dates you would like to inquiry of, let me know. I'm here to still try to prioritize it being used as an art space as much as I can. Obviously, we don't have a say in the in the table anymore, but we will just try to do and prepare in advance as much as possible so that when it is booked for art purposes. But yeah, that's my update. Um, yeah.
Thank you, Alicia. A lot of thoughts. I think this falls into a general pattern we've been seeing with AUC that's concerning. But at the same time, I don't have any thoughts on the top of my head on what we can do specifically. I see Pamela has her hand up, so I'm gonna let Pamela comment on it.
Good evening, USAC. How are you? Yes, Alicia, thank you for bringing this to council. I appreciate you bringing it in regards to the conversation. She is correct. We did have a meeting this morning or afternoon in regards to that. It was presented to CAC because they have used it primarily in the past regarding their reservations, and it was fair to have that conversation with Alicia and her staff. In regards to the space, it is considered a venue space, and it is also subject to all the same regulations as all of our other venue spaces. With that being said, as we stated with Alicia, the essence of the art gallery is staying the same. We will definitely make sure we love the space. It's not going to change in regards to a lot of the organizations. The main change is the reserving of the space. Because of the updated university policies, it does need to go through the entire process, which includes the EOL process, in regards to that. And so that was a conversation with her today. I can commit that it's still staying in the art gallery, looking to even enhance the space as far as being more of that feel in regards to that. But as far as organizations using it, we have also shared with CAC that they would get first rights. We're not looking to change that in regards to what they use and set their programming up for that. So we just wanted to let her know of let the office know of the process. But they still will have first rights in reserving it for their programming. We're not looking to impact CAC at all in regards to the program that they have throughout the year. It's just a different process in regards to that. And to open it up, I'm just responding. So yeah, that's mainly my update in regards to the guidelines. I'm just fine lighting it. I can send it out, Alicia, to everyone regarding that if you give me a chance by tomorrow.
Alicia?
Yeah, appreciate that, Pamela, but as a student leader, and as a student, my positionality and my understanding of it is that it has changed. Like this has completely changed because students no longer have a seat on the table in terms of a very different and unique space on campus. This is not a meeting space. This is not a normal venue space. This is an art gallery, and it is the only art gallery available to book. Um, and student leadership fought for this understanding to be between ASUCLA as a collaboration, and that collaboration part um, is not there in the same way that it used to be. Of course, we do get priority, and I appreciate that, but it's not the same as us, ensuring that it is used for artistic purposes. So I just from where I'm coming from. Obviously, you're coming from you know a different place as a full-time staff and a director. But yeah, I just that's my perspective and as a student, and so I just want to reiterate that it is traditionally not a normal venue space. It is very unique to campus and to students, and for that relationship to change in any way or shape or form is very important and to be shared with students as a loss personally. But thank you. And also, I prefer they them pronouns than she her. So just you can say she her, but just FYI.
I appreciate that. And any USAC member who would like to have a conversation with me, you're more than welcome to, as I have shared in other aspects as well. Thank you for the time.
Kiara?
Oh, wait, hello. Okay. Hi, Pamela. I was just wanting a follow-up question. Sorry if you guys covered this when you were responding to Alicia's question. I understand that with the policy changes, that was what incurred the kind of removal of CAC from that process, but what specifically in like the addition of these policies meant that CAC couldn't still have a role? Like even with these policy additions and procedures, that this still couldn't be built in within those policies to ensure that the student voice is involved in the event usage of that space and the priorities that CAC has had in reservations for them.
In regards to the differences, the EOL process, all RCOs have to go through their sole advisor. So that's the reservation process where we'll go through that university process.
Once they go through that process and their event is approved by the university, by their sole advisor, can ARC then have a role in determining whether that constitutes an art event, similarly to what they've been doing now? Because for the most part, it would be the same thing, except them getting prior approval from their sole advisor, no?
Their sole advisor will approve it through the EOL, and that will establish the usage of the art gallery after, again, the priority with CAC and making sure their events are done. So organizations will not be impacted, and it will still stay to the meaning of that art gallery as far as art expression, but it would just go through the student organizations and their advisors.
Alicia?
Yeah, well, been a, like I've booked the gallery before clearly, and I used to get EOLs prior to the time, place, and manner policy. So that is my only confusion with it. But I do know that there are new guidelines in place. I do feel like there's a way to fit in student input through with that, regardless, because you could still go through an EOL process and have, CAC approve whether or not something is going to be used for our purposes. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the EOLs are more strict or there's more, but I definitely have received EOLs in the past before for booking the art gallery.
And that's correct. You have because you were the initiator. And so now with the process, the other organizations with their sole advisors, when it's available, again, you still are getting priority in regards to using this space.
Do any other council members want to comment on the discussion? If not, I recommend we continue this conversation on offline, maybe tomorrow or the day after. Does anyone else want to comment on this? Mano?
Just a short comment. It's my understanding that Kirchhoff was founded to be a student union. And since the time I've been here, which may be less time than some of the other council members on here, I've seen and understood Kirchhoff to be a space that's primarily for students and run by students, and especially with committees such as OSAC, which is primarily student run, primarily by our council members this year, in fact. It's disheartening to see student voices be taken out of the equation when it comes to this new policy change for reserving the art gallery, which is within Kirchhoff Hall. And I think that even when reviewing policies and changing policies, the spirit of the building and the spirit of the fact that this is a space that is primarily for students and run by students should not change. And so students, particularly student leaders who have been elected to represent the student body, should still have a voice when it comes to spaces like this. And while I agree that perhaps there's longer conversations to be had about how this can happen, I really just wanted to voice my support for the fact that students should have a say in student spaces, especially one that holds so much value for the student community.
I appreciate your response. Thank you. And definitely will take note of that. And again, everyone is welcome to have a meeting with me offline, as Adam mentioned.
Does anyone else want to comment on the discussion before we move on? We're going to move on to our next agenda item with Josh's bylaw change. Josh, if you just want to describe what it's about, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. I'll try and go through this super quickly. So CAB is also known as the Congressional Advisory Board. Basically, this was something that was implemented in 2020, I think, and we're trying to bring it back this year. Basically, it's an advisory board of student groups that will serve to advise USAC on our policies, resolutions, surplus proposals, things like that. So we're putting forth the bylaw change to change a couple of things. And I already talked about this with Adam a little while back. We agreed that the CAB chair would be an IVP appointment instead of a presidential appointment. That's what the main change is in this bylaw change, basically just changing everything from president to internal vice president. And then we added a couple new things for CAB responsibilities. CAB may co-sponsor resolutions and advise council on adopting resolutions pursuant to the CAB charters. So basically, whenever we want to pass a resolution, if we want to get student groups to also co-sponsor a resolution, we could also get CAB as an entity to co-sponsor a resolution. It would just require a majority vote of the members of CAB. And then this is something that would happen in the future when surplus proposals come out. Basically, CAB would also be able to provide recommendations on surplus proposals. That way we can get student organization input whenever we're passing surplus proposals. I'm thinking it would function similar to ARC statements. We would review a statement from CAB on each surplus proposal before we proceed to voting. And that is the bulk of the change. The rest of it is just changing everything from president to internal vice president. But let me know if you guys have any questions.
Any questions for Josh? Seeing none, we're gonna move on to our final agenda item of the day. Could we pass around the, thank you, Jonathan. So as you all know, OSAC recently cleared out all the old offices that were basically abandoned by student orgs. A lot of them are really, really, really messy. I know a lot of the council members went around some of the rooms and I sent some of the videos. So we had to hire a professional cleaning company, take everything out, and we're gonna be taking the money out of discretionary, and it came out to $6,000 total, which I know is a lot, but given the extent of stuff that were hoarded up in the rooms, that's the only option we had. Does anyone have any questions before we vote? With that being said, I motion. Wait, I have the wording. Let me open it because I have to specifically word it. Oh, I close Slack. Is there a question? Oh, can you say it? You say it.
I move to allocate USD 6,000 from the council discretionary fund to pay for the OSAC Patriot Moving Bill.
Seconds.
I second.
Temi motions, Robbie seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 13 to 0 vote, that motion passes and the money is allocated. With that being said, I end this meeting at 10:07 p.m. Thank you all so much for coming.